Crockett, present.
Member Preciado.
Present.
Member Wynn.
Present.
Member Thomas.
Here.
All 5 members are present.
Thank you, Mr. Richards. Appreciate that. Approval of agenda. Need a motion and a second. And I haven't signed in, so we'll do the hand.
I'll move to approve.
Okay, member Wynn moves.
I'll second.
Member Cracker seconds. Who's taking minutes for us? Right? Thank you.
Sarah will be here later, but I'm doing for before
Thank
closed
you.
session.
Appreciate it. Okay, show of hands. Okay, so the agenda stays the way it is. Okay, before we recess to closed session, and in closed session, we're gonna have public employee discipline, dismissal, release. That's an HR issue that we have. Public employee employment, superintendent's contract. We're gonna be discussing the superintendent's contract. Public employee appointment for employment, the executive assistant to the superintendent. Yay!
Yay is right.
Public employee appointment or employment. Oh, we already did that. Conference with legal counsel regarding anticipated litigation. We have one case, and then initiation of litigation. DC 54956.9 in parentheses D in parentheses 4. Item E, continuation of expulsion order and suspend enforcement so that student may attend the school on probation, and that's one case, number E 1516-14. That's E. F is continuation of expulsion order. We got 5 cases, E 1314-05, 07, 1405, and E 1516-05. Okay. Would anybody in the public like to address the board on any items that we're going to be talking about in closed session? Okay, seeing none, we go to closed session at 6:04. Okay, you can come up if you don't mind. Okay, we need your name, your school, and your GPA. No, we don't. What's your name?
My name is Caitlin Sandoval.
Okay, thank you. You want to lead us, if you don't mind?
Ready? Begin.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, appreciate it. With that, I would like to welcome all of you to our board meeting, and our school is going to be opening prior to the next board meeting, so we're all excited. And so what I'd like to do is report the discussion during closed session, which we just had. And we went into closed session around 6:04 and just got out. So we discussed public employee discipline, dismissal, release. Actually, we didn't discuss that. We thought there was going to be something on there, and wasn't. So we had a discussion on the superintendent's contract. The board met by themselves, and then the superintendent came in, and then we talked some more. And the board has given the board president direction to discuss what we discussed with the superintendent. And then we have public employee appointment or employment, and we discussed the opening for Ms. Warren's position, which is the executive assistant to the superintendent. And Now we go to closed session, and then that item is going to be on closed session. On open session, I'm sorry. We had the conference with legal counsel. Mr. Richards brought us up to date on something that's might require some more legal based on what's happening in the district. We discussed the different expulsion cases that are on there, and we'll be voting on those later on in the meeting. And that's what we covered in closed session. Recognitions and celebrations, Superintendent Sanchez.
At this time, I'd like to, the rocketry group is not able to be here, so I do have another group that's here, but I'd like to do that probably either at the end during my update, unless you feel it's appropriate to do now. It's up to the board.
This is your time.
Okay.
So
Then I want
it's up to you.
I want to preface this with the idea of something that I've been working with Rachel at the high school and some of the parents that I met with that are part of the athletic boosters, and just to start raising some awareness and partnering with the Athletic Advisory Council, so I can start being more informed as to what's going on athletically. But at this time, I'd like to ask Rachel to come up and give us a snapshot of what you guys are going to present, and I think it'll be a good little board report.
Welcome, Coach K.
Thank you. Thank you for allowing us to be here. We have lots of good things going on, and I'm going to let the kids speak for themselves. These students that are here with me tonight, this is a small portion of the Student Athlete Advisory Council, which Sierra is also a member of. And it's a group that we meet every other Wednesday at lunchtime, and we talk about character development, we talk about leadership, talk about ways to get involved in the community. They plan, organize, staff many of our events that we do, and I'm going to let them kind of highlight the things that they do there and the things that we have planned and continuing, what we've been doing. So first, I'm going to introduce to you a couple of speakers. The first one is Emily Gutierrez.
Welcome, Emily.
Yeah, okay, go ahead.
Hello.
Hold on.
Okay, so the Student Advisory Council is a leadership group of student athletes that participate in lessons on leadership, attitude, how to be a captain, and a person of character. Students from the SAC attend regular meetings with Coach K and Coach Johnson and participate in planning a number of events on campus and in the community. Members of the SAC attend workshops presented by the Positive Coaching Alliance, special guest speakers, and attend the Character Combine for high school student athletes and coaches. We have also prepared an NMHS Student Athlete Statement of Respect, Newark Memorial Athletics Mission Statement, and most recently, a Cougar Pride Statement. We are grateful to be able to partner with the NMHS MCA program to record our statements. Recently, our participation number in athletics has grown to nearly 54% of our students' body, and we are constantly looking for ways to build good leaders and people of character and involved our parents, staff, and community. We are very excited and thankful for the opportunity to share with you some of the great things that are happening at Newark Memorial High School. The Student Athlete Tutorial. We continue to provide tutorial after school specifically designed to help meet the academic demands of being a student athlete. Tutoring is offered every block day and is monitored by our campus coaches. Since the implementation of this program, we have lowered the number of student athletes who will become academically ineligible to less than 1%. And last year alone, we had 3,137 contacts with students during tutorial. PBIS implementation. Our student athletes helped plan and staff our Pride in the Community Assembly, as well as the community building activities for the NMHS staff with huge success and provided a great start to the school year which we are excited to repeat.
Good evening. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen of the board. My name is Kabir Dillon, and I'm going to be a senior. Some of our community building themed football games include Heroes of America, Breast Cancer Awareness, and Staff Appreciation. America's Heroes, we honor all branches of the military, local police, and fire departments, staff, and community veterans, with a pre-game ceremony and parade to honor their service and sacrifice. That night was not just about the football game and players, but it was a community as a whole. Our students felt inspired and grateful. For Breast Cancer Awareness, our student athletes organize lunchtime poster making for all students who would like to make a poster in honor of or in memory of a loved one affected by cancer. We also invite all family members, community members, district staff members to a pre-game ceremony. For staff appreciation, our Student Advisory Council made special invitations to our staff members to be honored that night. They participated in a jersey swap and were provided with a free meal at the snack bar. In all of these events, we were able to bring different people in our community together, learn a little more, and be inspired by others, and gain a sense of pride in our school and community. We are excited to host these events again this year on September 23rd and 29th. Fundraisers. As you are aware, athletics must supplement by budget by hosting fundraisers. These fundraisers not only help offset the operating budget of athletics, but also provide us with another opportunity to practice our organization and leadership skills. Our first fundraiser of the year will be our third annual luau, which will be held on October the 1st. Our annual walkathon will be on October 29th and will feature a glow-in-the-dark color theme. This is a great team building event where teams compete against each other in a best dressed contest. The crab feed will be held on March 18th and is an awesome opportunity to bring the community together. It will be great to see familiar faces from the past and present at this event. Our Newark Ring of Honor is an athletic hall of fame. For the first time ever, we created an athletics hall of fame to honor all the high schools in Newark, including Newark High, Memorial High, and Newark Memorial High. Inductees were nominated based on service to the school, athletic performance, and accomplishments on and off the field. Our first class of inductees include Rich Swift, Alyssa Haber, George Fernandez, Markeen Chandler, Rocky Pamplin, Tom Lunsford. It was nice to honor such people who made a difference in our school and community. We plan to host this event again on January 28th, 2017.
Good evening, board. My name is Haley Nelson, and I'm going to be a junior. Newark Memorial had the honor of hosting the Special Olympics basketball for the past 3 years. It's a humbling experience to witness over 350 special needs student athletes compete in this special event. We are inspired, motivated, and grateful to be a part of this event. Members of our Student Athlete Advisory Council staff this event and are enthusiastic in seeing that this event is so successful. This event provides learning that extends beyond the classroom and provides valuable lessons to everyone who participates. Last April, we organized a dinner for our coaches and their families as a way to thank them for their influence and sacrifice. It was a special evening that motivated and inspired each of us. Our Student Athlete College Night is a night where we recognize our college-bound student athletes who have committed to participate in athletics and to thank those who have helped them along the way. The students even invite their elementary school teachers to thank them. We are able to see how great our community and its people have impacted our students. It is a special night because we get to honor the athletes that have been with our program for so long and will continue to compete in college. The athletes who we have seen grow are able to carry on their accomplishments and work ethic towards college. And it's special to have members of the Newark community representing us in their colleges.
Sorry, I'm not as tall as her. Hi, I'm Catley Tran, and I'm going to be a senior this year. So another activity or thing we do is student-centered activities. These activities were generated and organized by our Student Athlete Advisory Council to establish community building and a sense of pride and participation among our students and staff. For example, we had a cannonball contest between teachers and students where they were judged by peers to determine a winner. And we also had a biathlon, which students and staff ran 1 mile, swam 4 laps, and then finished by running a 2nd mile. And prizes were awarded to the winners in each category. Both of these activities were like the first time we ever hosted them this year, and I think that they were pretty successful for the first time. Like, we had a lot more participants than we expected. Like Emily said before, our goal in athletics is to build good leaders and create good character. So this year we actually started a character building program, and NMHS Athletics had made the decision to dedicate one of our coaches to coach all teams at NMHS to help develop student athletes that are rooted in key principles and values. We are using a video-based training called Habitudes for Athletes that focus on character and self-leadership. Our goals are to build strong character based on integrity and emotional security, develop habits of self-discipline and initiative to achieve their goals, and to help student athletes choose their own set of core values for making wise decisions in life. And the coach that runs it is actually Coach Hess. He started working with all levels of our football program, and he's gonna work with the other teams as well, and we're really excited for him to do that. There is a need for this type of training in our athletics program, and we have already seen the results in the football, in just a few weeks. Coach Hess is actually my wrestling coach my freshman and sophomore year before he retired, and like having worked with him, I think like he really has an impact on a lot of the students. Like, I wouldn't be here without him. Like, the reason why I do so well in school and work hard both in school and like athletics is because of him. So I think that this program he's doing is crucial, not only to like help our athletic program, but also like help students like outside of school. With that being said, like another activity we do is like reading to elementary students, and we are hoping to return to this activity, and we're hoping the schedule will allow for us to return to elementary classrooms to present our respect video and read stories on bullying, sportsmanship, sharing, and kindness to students. And it's like a really great experience because all of our students and staff are involved, and we are able to connect with other schools in Newark, so it's like a really good community bonding thing, as well as like to inspire the little kids. That's all we have for you tonight, and I'd like to thank you for this opportunity to present to you. And we would like to invite each of you and your families to attend these events that are so important to us and have such a great impact on our school and community. Thank you.
Well, don't go away yet. We're going to ask you all to come up front here and take a picture with us. So if I could ask the board to join us on the floor real quick. Grace, you can move over. Get your hands. Bill, would you help take pictures of Grace and Minnie? Please smile. There you go. Move in, gentlemen. All right. Good in. Prom style, turn sideways, prom style. All right. That's all right, Brian. That's good. Lefty, you in the front, you in the front. Squeeze in. Get tippy toes. Take 2 or 3, Bill, please. Don't forget to smile. Tell us smile. 3, 2, 1, smile. Cougars. Cougars. Woohoo. Thank you guys.
All right. Thank you. Good.
Coach K, would you help me put my PowerPoint on the screen? Since you're nearby. President Rodriguez, that concludes recognition celebrations. And if you would like, I can roll into superintendent's report, if that's okay with you.
Yeah. If you don't mind, Superintendent.
Comments or anything?
No.
Yeah.
I just, the board.
Oh, I'm sorry about that, yeah.
If
please.
the board wants to make some comments. Before Member Crocker, can you introduce our student board member? This is Sierra, if you don't mind. Or you want to introduce yourself,
Yes,
Sierra?
no, please.
Go ahead,
Sierra, welcome, Sierra. Please introduce yourself and tell us what grade you're in and maybe your GPA if you want.
Okay, is this working right now? Yeah?
Yes.
Okay. Hi, I'm Sierra Van Rossum. I'm a sophomore. I have a 4.0 GPA.
Nice.
I'm on the Student Athletic Advisory Board Council as long as like 3 other clubs. Let's see, I play water polo, wrestling, and swimming.
Nice.
The only really big information that's going on right now for Newark Memorial is we have orientation this week. Tomorrow from 9 a.m. to 11 a.m. is seniors, and then 1 p.m. to 3 p.m. is juniors. Thursday, 9 a.m. to 11:30 and 1:30 to 2:30 is sophomores. And then pretty much all day Friday from 8 a.m. to 3 p.m. is freshmen.
Great.
And then I don't really think we have anything else going on besides, sports is going on right now. I just started quote unquote Hell Week for conditioning for water polo, and I just scheduled a fundraiser. It's actually going on right now at BJ's from 4 p.m. to 8 p.m. So I'm not sure if any of you would like to go. 20% of any earnings we make goes towards aquatics. So if you're welcome to go right now if you would like to.
Everybody leave.
We got one. But yeah, that's pretty much all I have for right now.
Thank
I'll
you.
get more next time.
Welcome.
Thank you.
Member Crocker?
I just wanted to thank the students for coming. It's fun to hear that 54% of the students are involved in some sort of organized athletic program. When I asked Coach Swift years ago what percentage of students, at that point he gave me a 34%. So it means it's increasing. And as a parent of 3 Newark Memorial High School graduates, he coached water polo. It was one of those things that was very, very important to our family and to our kids, and I know how important it is. And I certainly appreciate the leadership of Coach K and all the students that are participating. This advisory committee is wonderful council. I'm just delighted with it. So congratulations, have a great productive year. It's a good year for sports because the Olympics are out there and everyone gets jazzed, and that's kind of neat too.
Okay. I was very fortunate to have Coach Swift and Coach, naturally he was Coach K's mentor, but have my kids in sports, and I love the term student athletes. I just love that term, and it's good to celebrate our kids, young people that can play sports and also do well academically, which they're going to need in order to go to the college level. So I appreciate Coach K and everything you do, and all the staff at the high school to make sure our kids not only get the best education and also have safe sports that they can enjoy their 4 years that they're Newark Memorial High School students. Member Thomas?
Well, I'd like to echo Member Crocker's thank you to the students for coming. It's still your vacation. Thank you very much. I had an idea about some of these activities, but I had no idea the breadth of the wonderful activities that you do as part of your leadership team. Kudos to you, Coach K, and to the members of the boosters that are here. You just work tirelessly. I've seen it with Crab Feed and all of your other events, and with parents and boosters like you supporting our team, our athletes, they can do even more. So thank you very much for everything all of you do.
And thank you for all of you that work academically with our kids, not only as coaches, but also to make sure that they don't fall behind, because it's a big time commitment having student athletes and all of us, and it's really, really appreciated. Anyone else? Okay, thank you, Superintendent.
I'll proceed with my report then, ladies and gentlemen, members of the board, President Rodriguez. I have a PowerPoint I want to go through. And tonight I'm going to start with kind of a superintendent report relative to the survey update. As I mentioned before, I tasked myself with the process of taking information from our community, and I'll be releasing an employee survey Monday at the rally, and I'll have some samples to show you what that is in a minute. I have surveyed the administration and the management. They did it with me on, I believe it was August 9th at one of our meetings, and I'm beginning to get some preliminary patterns that are showing up, and launching community and parent survey in line with the start of school. So those things are coming. Also tonight I'd like to give you just some observations and examples of Measure G and what's going on with Measure G, and some status reports a little bit, and some question about curb appeal that I want to talk with you about and just have you start thinking about with me, and as a result of that, perhaps discussing some future agenda items based on our conversation. So here's some sample questions that I'll probably be using for an employee survey, and we want to ask every employee pretty much kind of the language that's up here on the board. What is working in the district? What are the top 3 successes that your school or department has accomplished last year? We want to ask what's not working. What do you think Newark Unified School District needs to improve on in order to make all schools and our school district more successful next year? And what are the barriers? What are the top 3 barriers to keeping you or your school, our school district moving to the next level of academic performance and success? And what do you think the top 3 reasons are that Newark Unified School District is losing student enrollment? Those are relative questions that we want to hear from our own employees about. We also want to know, what do you think would help Newark Unified keep its current students until graduation and increase its existing student enrollment? So we do have kids that come here, they go here, and what we're seeing is a trend of, they might be choosing another option in high school or junior high. So let's just be honest about it and engage in that conversation with our employees. And what can employees and leaders do to continue to improve our district customer service and community engagement? So they're very open-ended questions. I'm not looking for my answer, I'm looking for what do they say. And I'm considering some questions that are specific to teachers, because they have a little bit different role. They really are the front line of student achievement. And just what do you need? What's working? What's not working? What are barriers? What would help your students be more successful? And what are some instructional initiatives that you think are working, and what needs improvement or needs to be changed? So that's kind of an idea of the concept of what we'll be surveying with employees. Community survey is very similar, kind of asked a little bit differently. But I want to know if there's anything that they feel the best thing that we as a district or schools have done. What's not working? What do we need to improve on to make all schools more successful next year? What are the top 3 barriers keeping you or your school district from moving into the next level of academic performance? And what do you think the top 3 reasons are that Newark Unified is losing enrollment? And what would help Newark Unified keep its current students until graduation and increase its enrollment? And what can we do as employees and leaders to continue to improve our district customer service and community engagement? So this is part of a larger process. I don't have all the answers, and I think until we've exhausted as many surveys as we can, we'll begin to see what patterns emerge. And then once those emerge, I'll do a full formal report to the board, and then the board might want to direct me to take some action on certain items that there might be some real easy things that if we just stop doing, it might boost morale. Other things that we need to start doing, or things that we need to adjust. So that's kind of the intent of this survey. I don't know if this is. So I wanted to share that with you and just let you know that it's coming, and there'll be more to come. What I am hearing so far is one thing that a lot of agreement, just with a small sample that I've surveyed, is curb appeal matters. And when parents pull up to a school, they want to see, that it looks nice, that, there's not weeds, that there's, a nice entry place, there's a clean environment for kids to be. This is not anything new that you're hearing for the first time, but I think it's confirming some of the conversations we've had. We also know that it's important for our employees to also be aware of what the initiatives are. And I don't mean just teachers and administrators, I mean all employees. So involving more employees is also a theme that I'm seeing that's important. So let me show you an example. I think this illustrates something I want to talk about relative to Measure G. Just some observations. As you know, I've been out visiting schools, and I think that the environment that we present to students makes a difference. And I think that that curb appeal matters. And I'm glad there's some students in the audience tonight. And I want to show you some samples of what I've seen. This is Newark Memorial High School. It's a backboard. There's no net, a little bit rusted. Things like that are just simple paint and not really a lot of money to repair, but sends a loud message to our students. Here's the backside of one of the basketball hoops. Now look at this one. It's painted. There's a nice chain net. Also a school in our district. So I think what I'm asking for us to consider as a team is, we need to kind of raise the standard for all schools, but I think something as simple as paint and chains on the playground and look at the stripes and lines compared to, there's not a lot of lines here and there's a lot of space there. I see that as kind of some low-hanging fruit that we might want to consider or maybe reconsider some of the Measure G money to do some of those curb appeal items first. I don't have an official plan for you yet. I just wanted to share some images and examples with you in the audience to think about that, because I think this is an area where a lot of student traffic, a lot of traffic during games, a lot of people see this area during events, and I think this is our flagship. The high school is a flagship, and I think we can get some things touched up for not a lot of money, and I think it sends the right message to our community. For example, here's another basketball court, but just something simple as in a conversation with parents and community and students, there was interest, can we paint the snack shack first? Because there's a lot of tickets that are taken there, we sell stuff out of there, and it's in the queue to get painted, but I asked to move it up a little bit, exercise some of my executive authority to do that. But symbolically, it says to our kids that you matter, and some of the places where you spend a lot of time, I want to put some focus on. So it's looking better. I've been teased that my shirt matches the trim, tonight. But just where the tickets are taken, this is a high-profile area. And in this fence that's here, I think it's the fence 90 degrees to it, there's Coach K's ordered a beautiful banner with a cougar. There'll be a lot of color and splash. So even though the building's a little gray, when that cougar comes in, it'll add a nice background for the cougar. But I just wanted to, illustrate some of those things and have the board begin to consider, maybe to direct me or to have us look at what are some curb appeal items that could be maybe re-sequenced to do sooner at each school, or do we want to revisit some of the Measure G in a way that can kind of get to some of these high-profile curb appeal items sooner? Largely because I think that we have to be thoughtful about the message we send to our students and let them know that we're paying attention and that they care. So I think for me, this all started just as simple as a conversation at the high school and just spending some time. The good news is there's lots of stuff out there that we could look at. One of the things that is on my radar that I'd like to maybe more formally bring forward on the agenda is something as simple as the scoreboard. Newark Memorial scoreboard, it's kind of hit and miss. It could work better, and those are appropriate one-time purchases. But if we buy something that has maybe two sides to it, perhaps even a screen that faces Cherry Street, we can use it for advertising, we use it promoting our school district, our schools, and have a nice place for events to occur. That's an example of a one-time purchase that we probably won't make for another 20 years. And I would tell you that it comes back to what President Rodriguez said. I really do believe in the idea of student athlete, but they are students first. I'm not by any way saying this is more important than academics. I don't want anyone to hear that, but I want to know that I had mentioned to the group I was speaking with that I want to spend some time visiting the athletic campuses or the athletic fields of some of the higher performing schools in the area and take pictures and let's compare them to what we have. And let's raise the bar. Let's raise the bar for our kids. So I think that with that, I just wanted to plant the seed with the board, and I know I'd be glad to have any discussion or hear from you on your observations. But I just, as someone new from the outside, I felt compelled to share some of this with you in some of my conversations.
Yeah,
Member Crocker?
I was thinking about this with our new painting that we have for our elementary schools too, and looking at what each site is. Each site is slightly different, and they've chosen a different combination. And I would like to see us put aside some money for the discretion of the local sites to do something special, whether it be a mural, whether it be a way of whatever it might be that would sort of tie in the new paint that we have, because right now it looks formula, and I think a couple of the schools there's unique things that are going on in that school, and it looks really great because it sort of goes with, I think of Milani particularly, with the tile work that they have there. It just really makes it pop, and I really like that. But I think that if there were limited funds, I'm not talking about a lot of funds, but some funds available for the principal of the site to talk with the parents and say, what do you want to see to make this our school, to make it different? So I can see on Birch Grove Primary, I can see a huge birch forest on that side of the cafeteria. I think it would be wonderful. But that's sort of my thought. I don't think it's theirs. But I think that there are things that you can do that are relatively inexpensive that will make a statement about the uniqueness of each school, because each school's got its own character. And
I'm sorry, Member Crocker, not to interrupt, but this is the superintendent's report, and I think what you were looking for is maybe setting up an agenda item where we can go into it and then talk about different ways that. Okay, so rather than having that discussion now, because it's not really on the agenda, basically, it's a superintendent's report, and we receive it, and we're excited about the fact that you're, talking about this.
Right.
And,
I think it was seeking comment though, right?
yeah, you
As far
can
as where
comment,
we
but I'm
stand.
talking about as far as getting into it,
Yeah.
we're gonna bring this back as an agenda item, so we can really have an in-depth discussion on,
But I think where he's at is that what type of agenda item is he going to bring back? Because right now, he's just kind of filling the waters as far as where
Sure.
we stand on this. And
Remember
I
when?
think, thank you. So I remember a couple years ago when we did the tour of all the school sites, and we spoke to every principal at basically every elementary school and middle school. One of the things that really resonated was that there was a needed, they needed a real opportunity to really upgrade the front of house, so to speak, so that when parents drop off their elementary school students, that they see that, their respective elementary schools looks nice, and whether it's the entryway, the fencing, or upgrading, etc. And so I do like that notion. I've always supported that as far as giving each of the school site that ability and really upgrading the frontage of the look. I think what you mentioned in the report as far as painting and the low-hanging fruits that you mentioned, those items really can come under either deferred maintenance or just general maintenance. But I think if we're going to tap into Measure G and spend a decent size amount of money, then we can't forget about the elementary schools and the promise we made to them 2 years ago about giving them the appropriate resources to really revamp their front of house.
So what we'll do, Superintendent, is maybe as quick as the next board meeting, is have a discussion on the funds we have for facilities, the Russian site monies, and also Measure G.
Sure.
Frankie, I'll get to you in a minute. Sierra, did you want to say something?
Yeah, I wasn't sure if I should, but I love that you're bringing this up because this is actually something I've been trying to push for the past year and a half, even before I went to Newark Memorial. So the pool at Newark, has so many repairs that needs to be done, and maybe it's just from my standpoint, but we host the MVAL Championship and huge tournaments that go on there, and it doesn't necessarily look welcoming. Like I wanted to make a mural around the pool, but time and time again, we've been told there's not enough money. Like it can't be done. If we want it done, we have to do it ourselves. Which is why I actually set up the fundraiser tonight so we could put in some money towards it. But I mean, it is something that needs to be brought to attention. That's just one of the things. There is a lot of other things that I would say need to be brought to attention, but that is a huge student body. Like, we want it to be done, we want to be acknowledged. So that's all. Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah.
I think we had talked about, you had talked about starting a student advisory, and so you can hear it directly from students, which would be great, I think. Member Purcell?
So in terms of agenda items, I think what we could do is have maybe a work study session to re-examine the Measure G priorities and outline the different pieces of how we're going to tackle this picture, if it's within the context of Measure G. If it's not, then maybe it would be a different agenda item, but within the context of Measure G, it would be a way for us to examine the priorities and then kind of discussing those pieces together.
Okay. Excellent point. Okay. Anyone else?
Just briefly, I agree with Member Preciado. I think any discussion we have needs to be in the context of how much money is remaining in Measure G, what the original priorities were, what we've done, and how it matches with what we wanted to do. And I certainly, it resonates with me that we would want to do curb appeal at our schools, and the painting is long been needed, and it's wonderful to see that happening. Now if we can just add to the curb appeal and make all of our sites look like the one you showed us with the new basketball hoops, I think that's an important thing. But at the same time, we need to make sure that that the asphalt isn't cracking. I noticed there was a lot of cracked asphalt in one of your pictures. So we've got to be able to trade off what's really important and what we can do
Yes,
with
I
some
agree.
low-hanging fruit at the same time.
Thank you. So when we get together, we'll
Yes.
come up with something.
This gives me an indication you want to see more in this direction, that I'm
Yeah.
on the right track. So that's really what I was looking
It
for.
would be Measure G, and in my opinion, it would also be the Russian site monies, because we've already set aside monies for beautification, and it'd be a good discussion to have.
It may just be resequencing
Yeah.
and maybe looking at other resources. I'll tell you that I'm glad to feel that you feel that I'm on the right track. I think that I would advise that if we do, well, I won't get into advising right now, but I'll tell you that it's been good to get out and see what's going on in the buildings. And I think when we see youngsters that are like we see here tonight, I think that's reminds us who we serve. And there's a solution here, which is what's exciting to me. There's some solution here. But what I would say is in our conversation about enrollment, and when people move into this area, how are the schools? What are the scores? What's the curb appeal and the location? Those are things that are going to be big drivers for anyone that moves into this area. And we need to continue to strive to have better answers for each of those questions. So, and it won't happen overnight, but I appreciate just the kind of indication of the board to continue, and I will chase down with our best thinking and bring a study session to you. So with that, that would conclude my report at this time.
Before you conclude, Superintendent, could you mention the rally, if you don't mind, since you did hit on it a little bit?
Yes, Monday we'll be having an all-employee rally. I sent out an invitation to all employees today, starting at 7:30 a.m. With continental breakfast. At 8 a.m. we will have the Taco drummers perform for about 20 minutes. At 8:30 we'll start the agenda, and about 9:15 we will conclude with Ms. Hong and some student band performing. Just a good way to kick off the year and to remind everyone who we work for, which is Sierra Von Rossen. We work for you as a student, and we work for all the students here, and just have something fun and exciting in a pep rally style at the Newark Memorial. We'll be in the small gym for the activity because the acoustics are better. It should be a good kickoff, and I would ask the board to, if there's any community dignitaries you'd like to invite, please forward it to them. We'll make space for them on the floor. We'll have the bleachers down. I've asked schools to sit together, or departments to sit together and bring their school spirit and gear, and hopefully just get us off to the right start. So thank you for reminding me of that.
Thank you, and I think you're invited the Newark Days people to come also.
Whoever wants to
Talk about
come,
Newark Days.
you guys, if there's other people you want me to invite, I'm happy to do that. But we can squeeze another 20 people in there.
Thank you, Superintendent. You
Thank
good?
you. Yes, thank you,
Okay,
sir.
Thank you. Okay, with that, we go to public comment on non-agenda items, which we have it on the agenda to be done before 8:30.
There are three.
Member Nguyen?
The first one's Cindy Anderson.
Okay, Ms. Cindy Anderson?
So I think that my agenda item has to do with what you just bumped to possibly the next meeting, which would be support of curb appeal for Newark Memorial High School.
You can still come up and
Yeah.
address it.
Really?
Yeah,
you-
sure.
Talk about anything you like, as long as it pertains to Newark education.
You got 3 minutes to talk about anything you like.
As long as it pertains to Newark
I'm
education.
Cindy Anderson. I'm a parent of 2 graduates of Newark Memorial High School and a soon-to-be junior at Newark Memorial High School. I'm also a teacher in Fremont Unified School District. So the Dalai Lama once said that in order to carry a positive action, we must develop here a positive vision. And I'm here to ask you to consider supporting Coach K's positive vision of a scoreboard for her athletes and for all of the community who come out to Newark Memorial High School. On the Newark Unified School District website, the district goals are listed, and one of those headings is Excellence in Teaching and Learning. And under that heading it states, I quote, "Students are supported to thrive intellectually, emotionally, physically, and psychologically. And I think overall, we do a pretty good job of that here. I've been thrilled as a parent of the public school system here at Newark, but I think we can always improve. And one area that we could improve, especially physically and psychologically, through curb appeal, as our new superintendent was saying, is through funding us, helping to fund a new scoreboard for all of the Newark community. Another heading on the website is communication. Under this heading, it states that all, quote, all written, verbal, and electronic communication will be executed in a respectful, effective, I repeat, effective, and efficient manner. Currently, the scoreboard is not effective. It doesn't work sometimes. It simply does not work. As a fan, I'm a big part of the lacrosse community there and the football community and basketball, everything. PTSA member too. You can't read the scoreboard at all. It doesn't work. It doesn't function anymore correctly. It can't be read or enjoyed. Lastly, in a recent article, it was noted that sports fans' eyes are, quote, drawn most often to one must-have venue amenity, and that is the scoreboard. Athletics have such a broad footprint and draw so many people to schools that administrators and athletic directors want to come across as putting their best foot forward. And so a scoreboard is a big part of that, end of quote. I'm asking you to please support our high school that has it's our only high school in this city, guys. It's got all of our Newark teens at it that choose to attend a public school. And as our superintendent said, we want to improve the curb appeal. And whether we're a huge athletic supporter or not, athletics bring out all of the community. And Coach K and her student athletes have done a phenomenal job of improving Newark Memorial's athletics, so I'm asking you to please support that scoreboard funding. Thank you very much.
Thank you. And you did that all under 3 minutes.
Next speaker is Ms. Cindy Parks.
Ms. Cindy Parks?
Good
Welcome.
evening. Hi. I just wanted to, I know that you're going to be voting a little later about the administrative assistant position, and you are 5 sets of minutes behind. So I'm hoping that that will be rectified shortly. So anybody who wanted to look at what's transpired for the last 2 months has no way of doing so unless they sit through hours of video. So I'm hoping that with the hiring of the assistant that the minutes will be brought up to date. Thank you.
Thank you. That's all my fault, but I'll get together with the superintendent and make sure we get those
Lastly,
minutes.
Ms. Kelly Hopkins.
Ms. Kelly Hopkins. Welcome.
Hi.
Hi.
I'm Kelly. I have 2 children at Newark Memorial, a freshman, an incoming freshman, and a junior. My husband is also a football coach there, and I've sat through 6 different seasons of this non-functional scoreboard. But I want to bring up something else. I'm actually a realtor in the area, and I want to let you know that one of the main reasons that people are leaving, truly, the high school looks really bad. It is one of the things that people constantly bring up when we're driving through. It just doesn't look good. People with sports, as Cindy said, a lot of them, they come and the scoreboard is kind of the running joke. And to have your kids playing and hearing the student body sitting there, it just doesn't scream Cougar pride. Back in 1990s, even 2000, it was all about Cougar pride. And I think it's super important that we bring that back at the high school level because so many of those kids, they have so much to give to the community. And I think we need to step up what we're doing because the stadium, it does not scream anything with Cougar pride. And there's so many community events, as the student athletes have already said. I mean, and the scoreboard, I feel it could be used for graduation, or as your kid is coming through graduation, it'd be great to actually have a picture of them coming through with their name on the ticker line because you cannot see them crossing the stage. And I've sat through 2 graduations so far at Newark Memorial. And I do want to let you know, we actually moved from the Irvington High School District specifically to come to Newark Memorial because we felt that the community at the high school was what we wanted for our kids. We were not aware of the shape of the stadium. My son does play football. My daughter does soccer. Like I said, my husband's a coach. And we would really like to see you guys put some additional effort into improving the entire area, and on top of it, some of the other things like the pool and, you know, basketball, whatever it might be, because the whole community is using the school. And it is one of the main things that people have said in taking them out to sell real estate is the high school, it's a little shabby. So hopefully you guys will take it into account and, you know, bring some Cougar pride back to the stadium, which desperately needs it. So thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else before we close, move to the next item? Okay, thank you. Thank you for your input. It's really appreciated. And the superintendent has an open door policy, and if you ever want to just sit with him, I'm sure he'd be glad to talk about Newark and Cougar Pride. Okay. We got a staff report, Superintendent.
Yes.
The summer school program.
Janet Handley.
Good evening, President Rodriguez, trustees, and Superintendent Sanchez. Tonight, I'm here to talk about summer school. And what I'd like to say is that as we got summer school started, we had Mrs. Taylor was our summer school principal. She did it for the first 2 weeks, and then Mr. Wasser took over the second 2 weeks. And the reason for that was that Mrs. Taylor had accepted a position in another district. The reason I bring this up is I want to talk for just a minute about how well the two worked together, Mr. Wasser and Mrs. Taylor. The school was one of the most efficiently run, organized summer schools that I have seen. And they did a fabulous job working together. When you'd go down campus, they had a very calm vibe if you were there at their recess breaks, at their break times. And if you look at how many credits they earned this year, I saw both of them working so respectfully with our students, encouraging them and trying to take more courses through the Apex so they could get one more class in. And I just saw how well they worked with the students throughout the summer. So I wanted to compliment Mr. Wasser and Mrs. Taylor on a great job that they did and their communication. And Mr. Wasser will actually do the presentation and go over the data and the specifics of summer school.
Hi, good evening. Thank you for letting me talk to you a little bit about the success of our summer intervention program. As I begin, I want to give a thanks to the many different people that were involved in providing a great experience, both from our campus monitors, our instructional staff, Miss Handley. It was a team effort to put together a great program, and I consider it a success. So before I go into some of the details of this summer's program, I want to provide a little bit of historic data. So what you're looking at in this graph right up here is specific to our 9th grade students. Over the last 3 years, it lists the number of F grades that students have earned first semester, second semester, and then the final green column in each one is the annual total. So what you'll notice is that you see in the last school year there's been a dramatic decrease in the total amount of Fs. While there still is a significant number, we do see that there is a decrease, and that can be credited in part to more targeted interventions being put towards our 9th grade class. Different course groups are starting to use standards-based grading. More targeted interventions are being offered to our students. So that translated into us being able to offer summer intervention to a more targeted group. We were able to have more one-on-one conversations with students as to which particular courses they needed. Going into those courses, both first and second semester course offerings were made in most key core content areas, with also a wide selection of electives through our Apex digital classroom. So we did not offer any physical education or science courses, but you do see the mathematics, English language arts, social science courses were made available. We also did have an independent study program for about a dozen seniors, both from the Crossroads and Newark Memorial campuses, which allowed them to recuperate needed credits so that they could get their high school diploma during the summertime. So the picture that you see in that bubble there is a picture of our mid-brunch between our first and second periods. You'll notice that it's very calm. Students are enjoying their snacks. I want to give a special thanks to Nutritional Services. They did a fantastic job not only in providing food for our students, but actually actively going out onto campus and making sure that each student who wanted something to eat had something in hand, which I genuinely believe helps students focus on the work during the day. Our enrollment was 375 students at the beginning and was fairly close to that throughout the program. Compared to 2 summers ago, where the initial enrollment was over 600 students, and then there was a dramatic drop-off of around 40% of the students dropped off. Because of those more targeted interventions I spoke about earlier and the conversations we had with students, we saw our enrollment was very stable throughout the entire program. You will notice that of those 375, only 110 of them are 9th graders, so a recommendation that I would have moving into the future would be to provide extra attention to enrolling 9th grade students. Our biggest group was sophomores. It's very important in providing students the ability to recover credit, to keep them at Newark Memorial High School and get them back on track towards graduation. So speaking in terms of credits, 2,160 total credits were earned, which translates into about 432 individual semester-long classes recovered. That in itself is just a number, but when I compare that to last school, or I'm sorry, 2 summer schools ago, it's about almost exactly 2/3 of the amount of credits that were earned 2 summers ago, which makes sense being that we offered 2 classes per day. 2 summers ago, they offered 3 classes. So in terms of the success of the number of credits, it's very stable with 2 summers ago. We had a very high passing rate in our traditional summer school courses, and then you'll see that there's a slightly lower number in terms of our Apex passing rate, but I think that that's kind of a false decrease. It's actually a very successful program, and so I want to share with you a little bit about specifically what the Apex Digital classroom does. This is different than a traditional classroom where you have an instructor in front of the class. Every student is working on the same content at the same time. In an Apex Digital classroom, there is a certificated classroom instructor, but that person is managing individual course sequencing for 30 students that could be in an English class, a social science class, a mathematics class. And the great thing about Apex is it allows students to leverage the information that they did learn in the school year and only focus on the areas within a course that they had yet to achieve mastery on. So it allowed the program to be specifically tailored to the learning needs of individual students. So of all those credits that were earned, about 675 were due to our Apex Credit Recovery Program. And to speak to the validity of those courses, they are accredited, and most of those courses do meet the requirements of fulfilling the A to G subject requirements. All right, I have to get my eyes checked here for this one. The text is a little bit small. Here we have all of the flavors of courses that we offer through the Apex program. So I want to focus on the far left, College and Career Preparation, the middle, Algebra 2, and the far right, U.S. History Semester 1. That's a small increase. The blue you see are the number of students that have successfully passed that course through Apex. The reason we see the most enrollment in those 3 sections is because we did not offer a traditional elective, a traditional Algebra 2, or traditional U.S. History course. We didn't have enough students to fill a complete section of that using a traditional course. So Apex allowed us to address a wider range of student needs. Moving on to our traditional classrooms, we can see that we have a much smaller range of classes that were offered both first and second semester. And again, blue indicating students that have passed, whereas red are students that have failed. It's quite easy to see where there's the greatest need to examine the effectiveness of our program and reevaluate how we're addressing students. These are our students who are taking Algebra 1. So these students that are listed in red have failed Algebra 1 during the regular school year and again during summer intervention. So this information is being passed along to the mathematics department so that these students arrive in teachers' classrooms next year not as unknowns, but already as students who teachers should have an understanding that they need to provide additional support to. We had a very fun and festive graduation ceremony that was important for both students and family members. 12 seniors did earn enough credits to graduate and earn their degrees from Crossroads and Newark Memorial. The picture you're seeing up there is of our actual event. We did have a student speaker. A student led the pledge. It was a very fun experience for everybody. Thinking about next summer, if I had to make two key recommendations, they would be the following. Looking at the population of students that we had, both our special education students and English language learners, the supports that we offered them during the summer were not as robust as I would have liked to have seen. And that partly is due to not necessarily having a clear, proactive insight into who is being enrolled in specific classes. So I'd like to see a greater awareness of the needs of those particular populations so that we can support them during summer school. And then also going back to that graph where we saw the Algebra 1 F grades, I'd like to partner with the mathematics department to continue using the accelerated math software that they've seen a great success in. Many of the much of the decrease in F grades that the school saw was within this department, and their insight is it's due to this program being able to better articulate to students, being able to better articulate to families what the particular objectives it is that students need to learn. So continuing on with that system, making summer school an extension of the regular school year for these students, I think would see benefit. And if there's any questions regarding the summer program, please let me address them.
President Rodriguez, if I may.
Thank you, Mr. Wasser. Superintendent?
I'm really glad to see that you're moving away from the Carnegie unit on credit recovery. There's nothing more frustrating for a kid to have to come in and take a test or redo a class when they've passed certain portions or units. So I think for us to have the ability to customize a makeup of a course is really critical. And I think that also accelerates them completing things faster. So I want to encourage you to continue in that direction, especially when it comes to credit recovery, course recovery, and just keeping kids on track. So I think you're on the right track with that. So thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. And in regards to it being called accelerated math, one of the accelerated options, within Apex, let me go back to that, is that you can hold that carrot out for students, that they can leverage the information that they've already learned, making their experience with the coursework shorter. So in many cases for our Apex students during summer school, they were not only able to recover the initial 5 credits that they were enrolled in, but they finished in enough time to enroll them in a second Apex class, increasing the number of credits that they earned during summertime.
Thank you. Member Nguyen?
Awesome, great job overall. But just something to think about, perhaps when you plan for next year as far as your evaluation of the program. In the enrollment slide, I saw that a lot of 9th, 10th, being the most. But have we given any thought to perhaps offering to incoming 9th graders, 8th graders, as sort of like a bridge program to get those students who maybe are not up to standard or who were historically struggling, so that we can offer them some sort of bridge program, and then also perhaps look into an acceleration, a true enrichment acceleration program to advance students into the next level, whether it's math or science, or to give those students the opportunity as well.
That's a great suggestion. I think anything that increases the communication and collaboration between the feeder school, Newark Junior High School, and Newark Memorial is going to ultimately serve to get kids to succeed.
Okay. Awesome.
Thank you. Member Crocker?
I was curious as to the Apex learning, was that done at home or was it done in the classroom at site?
It's a mixture of both. So just like in a traditional classroom, students are expected and also are able to study at home, read through material, do practice. The students are encouraged to do a certain amount of the online component at home. but there's certain specific events, tests, assessments that need to be done in front of a proctored environment.
I think it's very exciting that you're putting the two together. I think that's really where we need to go. I think some kids learn a lot better on their own, and I think being rewarded for having mastered things and being able to go and not have a repeat of things they already know is a really important piece. So congratulations as well.
Thank you. Member Thomas?
Well, I guess I thought that when you were talking about freshmen, you were talking about the incoming freshmen going to summer school. And so I would like to echo what Member Wynn said and ask you if there is a summer school for our incoming freshmen or our 8th graders. Is there anything now that we offer?
In times before, there have been various different enrichment or preparation programs, but this last summer, to my knowledge, the only offerings were the extended school year for STC kids, and then summer credit recovery, which would be for existing secondary students at the high school level.
Okay, so is it a funding issue, maybe superintendent, or is it a funding issue that we haven't been able to offer that?
If the board will recall, back in the days of the revenue limit, when we actually had summer school funding as a separate funding stream, there was an amount based on the number of hours of the various types of summer programs that we used to offer. All of those were cut by roughly 20%. And then subsequent, and that's when many districts rolled back to basically credit recovery for their high schools and special ed only. Then it was rolled at that lower amount into the local control funding formula as part of the base. So as a separate funding stream, summer school has not existed for several years now since we went to the local control funding formula. So now it becomes part of how we set things rolling forward, and we have continued to roll the program at basically at the rate that it's been because it was reduced by that percentage all those years ago, and we basically rolled it flat since.
Well, I think it's good to see that we have a decrease in the number of Fs for our 9th graders, and having a summer bridge program perhaps could decrease that number even further.
To answer your question about the expanding the program to incoming 9th graders, the goal this summer was to maintain program the way it had been in the last couple of years, because with all the construction going around in the district, the goal was to maintain it this summer and then look at programs that, like you were talking about, for next summer, when the facilities would be more available.
So, if I may, sorry.
Sure.
Just so the board's aware, I'll be meeting with all secondary principals, including adult ed as well as alternative. And what we're going to be working on is using all of that as staffing to be able to answer the question of what are we doing for one student that needs one class recovered all the way to full alternative education in that whole continuum. So when we look at our existing resources that we have, both with the alternative school through the high school, I think if we're able to work together with all of those groups, including the junior high, I think that's a very valid point. We do have some resources, but I think we need to align those resources in a way that allows, well, really the standards-based model, which is learning is the constant, time is the variable. Where in the Carnegie unit system, we have learning being the variable and time being the constant. So we can accelerate that, but I think it also becomes extended school day, extended school year, and options for kids to make up classes that they have struggled to complete. But back to the high school principal, it still comes back to making sure they pass the first time in the first scenario out of the chute. So 9th grade is going to be a big focus for us to be successful. If we can have those systems in place to capture those students, then we'll truly be able to yield a lot more graduates. If they pass 9th grade without Fs, they're 50% more likely to graduate from high school. Right. The statistic's been true for a long time. So
thank you. Member Wynn?
And then just, I think fiscally it's more prudent to prevent than it is to cure, right?
Yeah. You know, just like anything, it's been frustrating. Mr. Watson, do you have any other members of your team that are here other than Ms. Hanley from the summer school?
Ms. Rasmussen was one of our campus monitors, kept us safe and sane.
Thank you. So what I wanted to offer is, it's been frustrating the last few years because the money has kind of just been geared toward credit recovery. And for instance, the transition, which we really need from the 8th graders to the oncoming 9th graders, is so important, but yet that's always considered to be like an enrichment program. The fact that in order for our kids to do well in college, they need to be strong readers and strong writers. And that's also looked upon as an enrichment, which we've had in the past. But so we'll keep trying to talk to our legislators up in Sacramento to see if we can have more funding so that we can do more during summer school. But I thank you. It's always been one of our goals to have a strong administrator that takes care of the summer school program, and we're excited about what you've done, and we look forward to any suggestions that you get together with the superintendent on how we can make the program stronger. When you look at those charts and you see how many kids are dropped out or couldn't or failed, especially when you look at math, it's frustrating. But the fact that all that information is going over to your teachers so that they can continue to work with the young people in those areas where they have need, it's very, very encouraging. So it's really appreciated what you've done during the summer with the kids that you've worked with. Anyone else? Okay, Superintendent? Okay, thank you for your report.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Okay, we move to the consent calendar, or the consent agenda, and the first one is personnel items. I have item A1.
Move acceptance.
Member Crocker moves. Member Wins seconds. Please vote. Okay, motion passes. 5 ayes. The student member doesn't vote on personnel, but she will vote on non-personnel. Item A2, appointment of executive assistant to the superintendent.
Move to approve.
Member Nguyen moves.
Second.
Member Brusalo seconds. Please vote. Member passes. 5 ayes. Again, student member not voting. Item A3, provincial intern permit.
Move to approve.
Member Nguyen moves. Member Thomas seconds. Please vote. Motion passes. 5 ayes. Superintendent, you want to introduce our new executive assistant to the superintendent?
Yes, I do. President
Mrs. Salinas.
She's going to let me steal the thunder tonight because I'm so anxious to get started. I want to ask Martha P. Sandoval, please come to the podium. And let me introduce Martha. It goes by Patty. So I'm sorry about that. That's why I added the P, but I forgot to mention the Patty part. But she will be the new, as officially approved just now, executive assistant to the Board of Education and the superintendent. So the only person in the district who has 6 bosses. I have 5, she has 6. So welcome, and if you want to make any comments, and tell us who's with you tonight.
Thank you, board members and Superintendent Ms. Salinas. It's a pleasure to be here, and I thank you all for appointing me to be the executive assistant to you all. I have with me today my husband, Candy Sandoval, and my daughter, Caitlin Sandoval, who led us in the Pledge of Allegiance. And again, thank you so much. I'm very appreciative, and I look forward to this coming year.
And yes, congratulations. What city do you live in?
I live here in Newark.
Oh,
Actually,
I just wanted to get that in.
I live 2 minutes away.
That's great. Awesome.
Oh, there you go.
Also, yes.
Congratulations to you.
Thank you.
Thank you. So it's a quick catch-up, so we're 2 months behind, so
Yeah, I got some minutes to take care of.
we got a lot of minutes.
I brought that to the attention during the interview. I look forward.
Give her one day, don't scare her away.
But
Thank you
we really appreciate the fact that you decided to put in for the position, and I know you enjoyed the whole process and your interviews, and we're very, very happy to have you. Joined Superintendent Sanchez has been crying for the last 6 weeks, so he needs to, so thank you, appreciate it.
Thank you.
Board,
Thank you for having me.
Okay,
All right.
thank you. I was going to say welcome to Newark, but you already live in Newark, right? Okay, we now go to non-personnel items. Item B1 is the July 2016 warrant report.
Go through them all.
These are all discussion action items.
Move to
The
approve
consent.
B1
No, the
through
consent.
B3. Yeah.
They're all consent.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, the whole section is consent. So we have item B1, item B2 is summary of donations, and item B3 is approval of contract with Leadership and Associates for the superintendent advisement-mentoring services. Does anyone in the community want to pull any one of these items? Member Wynn?
No.
None? Any one of the board members?
No.
Okay.
So I want to pull B3.
Okay, Member Preciado wants to pull B3.
I move approval for B1 and B2.
Member Thomas moves approval for B1 and
B2.
B2.
Point of order, Mr. Wynn had already put a motion on the floor for B1 through B3. Is he going to withdraw that motion?
Yeah. you're gonna
Sure.
withdraw. Okay, he withdraws
second
it. Nobody seconded.
No one seconded it. Thanks, guys.
So we have a motion by Member Thomas for B1 and B2. And who seconded? Member Wynn?
Sure.
Okay. So, student member, you can vote on this one. Okay.
Got the power now.
Okay. Okay. Motion passes unanimously, 6 ayes. That's your first vote, right? All right. Okay. B3, Member Preciado?
Sure. So I just want to ask the superintendent, so in terms of the mentoring services and kind of advising, I just want to make sure, if you explain kind of some of the way in which you will be supported to make sure that you will in fact be supported as part of your training.
Absolutely. So Leadership and Associates has identified someone after talking to me and President Rodriguez relative to orientation and mentoring. And when we had that conversation, they kind of asked, what do you need? What are the gaps that you need more help with? And what I asked for was someone who was very knowledgeable about California law, the new systems and legislation that's coming. And, I've been a superintendent, but I hadn't been in California. So that transitional piece is kind of the big question I asked. And the other one was just someone who's also connected with several associations and organizations that could help our district benefit from those associations. And who they came back with was a person who's a retired superintendent, very well known throughout the state, has been appointed to governor's commissions, currently sits on a governor's commission, very well connected and very well respected in the state of California as a superintendent. And with that background, what they'll be doing specifically is talking with me weekly, very frequently, probably more than once a week, coming out to do some site visits, advising me on systems and structures to make sure we get things like minutes done on time, make sure that I'm communicating with the board and carrying out the board's desires. And in general, just coaching, kind of executive coaching is a large part of what they do, but also serving as an external lifeline if I get into a situation where I don't know what to do, I don't know who to ask. In Colorado, I was very well connected to a lot of people that could help me, and this person will help solidify some of those connections for me here. So kind of serving as a bridge and a mentor. So hope that gives you
Oh,
enough.
yeah, perfect. That's exactly, and I really appreciate you mentioning.
Who is the person?
I have to pull the name up. I don't know if I should mention it because of,
Maybe not.
Yeah, because we have to
but
vote on it first.
I can get that name to you. She works in the LA area. She recently retired from Whittier.
Yeah, because the contract is only
Whittier
with,
School District.
Because the contract's only with Leadership Associates, I don't think it's
Right,
included
it's with
in
her
the-
directly.
Yeah, so you probably shouldn't.
Okay.
Right.
I was gonna say, I just really appreciate those pieces that I think answers a lot of questions. It's really great to hear that someone will be providing kind of that support and mentoring regarding California law, and that piece is coming up. And I know that's one of the things you mentioned that you really wanted to get immersed in. So I think that's great that this is providing the support for that to happen. So it provides that clarity. I don't have any questions. I can move.
You want to move?
Yeah, I would move to approve B3.
Member Purcell moves to approve B3.
Second.
Member Nguyen seconds. I have something before we vote on this. Having a mentor or someone to help a new superintendent, and this is more for Member Nguyen and Member Purcell because this is the first new superintendent that you've helped us hire. The board has offered help in the past, and especially for the first few months to help with the transition and also to help the superintendent in any way. So this isn't new to just Superintendent Sanchez. It's something the board has done in the past. Okay, we have a motion and a second. Okay, please vote. Member Nguyen, thank you. Okay, motion passes unanimously, 6 ayes. Thank you. Superintendent, I know you're excited about having someone.
2 people helping me tonight on the agenda.
Right.
I love it.
Now you got a full team going here.
I'm excited.
Okay. We go to board comments on consent agenda items. Anyone? Okay.
I'm not sure if this qualifies under a common consent item or if I should wait till future board agenda requests.
Well, if it was
or not.
on consent, then you can comment on it.
Right.
B or A. If not,
it was regarding A2.
okay, then it's
Or related to that.
okay.
But not so way related. So just stop me if I go off track, right? But I know in our method of delivery as far as the agenda and how we run the board meetings is currently not very, I don't think very transparent or and very public friendly. And I know our new executive assistant has experience with board docs specifically, because that's what they use in Fremont Unified. And I would like to possibly explore, since she has experience with it, using or utilizing potentially board docs for our meetings, so that way the information is really there for the community, and also our board policies are readily available for the community as well.
Thank you. Thank you much. Anyone else like to comment on the consent agenda items that we just approved? Okay.
The only, I guess, summary of donations has usually been under new business,
Right.
but I don't know.
Well,
There's no
actually-
reason why it can't be under consent.
Do we want to read that? That's something that's.
Well, in the
done
past,
in the
what we've
past.
done is the
No, this
superintendent
is a good
has
time.
read,
Right.
has read the, but that is quite a long list,
Okay.
and I'm not sure that's necessary. It's just that it's out of order what we've done it in the past, and
Yeah,
it doesn't matter to me, but
yeah.
I'm just wondering.
The agenda's changing a little bit, but not very much.
If I-
Did we, with the board members here, did we want to, because it's important that we recognize the people that donate monies to us.
Yes.
And I know it's a long list, but, I mean, we're still going to be early leaving, so it's important. Okay. Superintendent, did you want to say something?
I would just respond with, I am very interested in changing the way of how agendas are developed and transparent. I would like to have somewhere on in fact, including revamping the website entirely making it friendly, having future agenda potential items early on the agenda, so there's no surprises to anyone in the community. So I fully understand that, and I think that just the ability to get in and have someone with experience to help us, not only internally but also mentoring to have that occur. I think you'll see a lot of, I also want additional transparency. I want the agendas to be more robust and really to carry out the will of the board in a better way. But I'm happy to read whatever you want me to read into the record.
The board can help you.
But I can promise you that.
You want to start?
Sure. The first donation listed is a donation of $150 to Music Elementary School from PG&E for no particular purpose stated. The second one is donation of $72.66 to Snow Elementary School from United Way.
So we're on.
Go ahead.
Where are we?
Donation of $1,500 to Schilling Elementary. The donor, Newark Rotary Foundation. Specified purpose, Science Camp. Donation of, number 4, donation of $100 to Music Elementary. Donor, Maria Susie Collazo. Specified purpose, Ballet Folklorico. Number 5, donation of $100 to Music Elementary. Donor, Mexico Tortilla Factory and Delicatessen. I don't know if I said that right. Specified purpose, Ballet Folklorico.
Member Narita?
Sure.
Thank you. Member Winston?
Okay. Number 6, donation of $106 to Graham Elementary School. The donor is Deborah Roa and Betty Roa, and the specified purpose is for CYRM books. The next one is a donation of $500 to Music Elementary from the Newark Rotary Foundation for Ballet Folklorico costumes. And then a donation of $250 to Music Elementary from the Rotary Club of Newark, again for Ballet Folklorico for costumes. And then a donation of $300 to Newark Junior High School from Target, their Take Charge of Education initiative, and the purpose is for the principal donation.
On that, there's a donation of $203.93 to Newark Junior High School. Donor is Target, Take Charge of Education for principal donation. Donation of $47.23 to Newark Junior High School, Wells Fargo Community Support Campaign, specific purpose principal's donation account. $190.14 to Newark Junior High School. Donor Your Cause, trustee for Pacific Gas and Electric for principal's donation account. Donation of $190 to Newark Junior High School, Your Cause, trustee for Pacific Gas and Electric, principal's donation account.
Thank you. Sierra, you want to finish?
Sure.
Please, thank you.
Okay. A donation of $17 to Newark Junior High School from Save Mart Supermarkets for principal's donation account. Then there's a donation of $87 to Snow Elementary from Target, Take Charge of Education for whatever your school needs most. There is a donation of $100 to Snow Elementary from Target, Take Charge of Education for also whatever your school needs most. And then the last one is $222 to Newark Memorial High School from Target, Take Charge of Education, and the purpose is not stated.
Thank you. We're excited when our community groups give to our schools, and that's something that, you know, each school spends a lot of money, a lot of time in going out to the community to get donations for whatever programs that they're working on. Okay, with that, we go to employee organizations. CSEA, since you're already up. Welcome.
Hi.
Hope you had a good summer. It's not over yet, I guess.
We worked.
I
We're
know.
working. We're still working. Good evening, President Rodriguez and the school trustees, Superintendent Sanchez, and staff. This is my first board meeting since the new school year, so I'd like to welcome Superintendent Sanchez and our Assistant HR Director for Letitia. And I got an opportunity to sit with Grace today, so I wish her good luck in the high school. And there's a lot of changes. and I'm looking forward to some positive moves going forward. I was impressed by the curb appeal that you came out with tonight, Mr. Sanchez, and I want to express my concern that I believe curb appeal is great, and I know we talk about one-time money for curb appeal, but I want you to remember, as you said, I'm planting the seed. I'm going to plant a seed. I keep planting them, but with this drought, they don't really grow. So I'm going to keep trying. Someday that dam will break. And when you think about putting those out there, remember staff. We can't maintain this equipment brand new without the staff to maintain it. So we put it out there, and then it doesn't get taken care of. So when you're considering the one-time monies to bring these things in, start thinking about how you're going to find money to increase our staff, because our staff is at the minimal. And when I say staff, I talk about maintenance. I mean, there's a lot. I'm sure teachers are short too, but I feel it specifically in the maintenance department. You know, I'm in MOT. You know, it's really rough out there. And having 5 to 6 maintenance guys for this whole district is a little rough. We still don't have a bus driver. We're working on that still after 2 years. So I've got a plan. I was discussing that with Ms. Salinas, and hopefully we can move forward with something like that pretty soon. And I just want to say that I think that the scoreboard would be a great idea. And I know our electricians would love to know we've got something new up there so they don't have to figure out how to make it work. And Cougar Pride and District Pride should be something we all look for. And thank you. And I'm looking forward to the rally on Monday. Thanks.
Thank you, Mrs. Condon. Appreciate it. Okay, NTA? NUMA? Okay, seeing none, we move to new business.
We have a speaker.
Oh, we have a speaker.
Oh, actually, no, I'm part B. I'm sorry.
Okay, new business item A.
No.
Second opportunity for public comment on the initial proposals of the Newark Unified School District and the California School Employees Association, CSEA, and action to adopt the initial proposal of the Newark Unified School District. The Board of Education will adopt the initial proposals of the Newark Unified School District and the California School Employees Association for successor agreement. Okay, we need a motion. Anybody want to speak on this? Okay, need a motion and a second.
I so move.
Member Crocker moves.
I'll second.
Member Wynn seconds. Please vote. Okay. Motion passes unanimously, 6 ayes. Next one is contract for real estate consulting services.
So we do have a speaker for that.
Okay, we have a speaker, but let me just.
Okay.
The board would consider a contract with Dutra Sarah Graydon to continue into the next phase of real estate consulting services for the proposed co-location of administration with the city of Newark, the development of the Area 3 proposed Cherry Street Elementary School site, and the potential development on district-owned land at the adjacent to the current district office, the Corporation Yard, Newark Junior High, and the McGregor Alternative School. Okay, who wants to speak on this?
Miss Cindy Parks?
Ms. Parks? Welcome again.
Thank you. Before you spend any more money and consider proceeding further with asset management services, please note Mr. Dutra's interest in the elusive demographic study. How can you plan without having that report? And the bigger question is, where is that report that this district received and paid for in May of this year? I have been told the special ed numbers were incorrect and need to be corrected. Again, I ask, where is the report that was delivered in May? If the special ed numbers were incorrect, how does that impact the rest of the report? I am sure that there is information that can be utilized from the original report. I would also like to remind you in March, the second interim report portrayed a financial picture of the district. However, when the 2016-2017 budget was presented on June 28th, it showed a $3.6 million of the $4 million set aside from the sale of Russian as an additional reserve was already transferred to balance the budget. Whether Mr. Richards' comments that he thought the district would only need half of or all of the $3.6 million, you're still deficit spending, which is what Mr. Preciado and Ms. Thomas stated in November of last year. How will you justify to the students and staff the reason for a brand new district office, which at a cost of $350 a square foot and $8,000 per parking space, without soft costs, project contingencies, and escalation would be about $5.1 million. Add in the other items using the same formula as the city, and you can add an additional $1.6 million. Clearly, you must have a money tree. Oh no, that's right, that's us taxpayers. The ones who have already supported 3 bonds in the last 25 years and haven't even started paying on the current one. With a declining enrollment, I'm not even going to address the school in Area 3. The only profitable idea is the residential development. But oh yeah, Mr. Dutra needs that demographic study. I will conclude by saying this district needs to operate as if it were a business with a vision, produce and execute a business plan, and stay within your financial means. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Okay, seeing none. We have the contract for real estate consulting. This is the time for discussion and action. Mr. Richards, did you want to? Okay. Superintendent?
Dominic, would you approach the podium, please?
Thank you, Mr. Dutra, for being here. We're going to discuss this at an earlier meeting, but we wanted to make sure that all the board members were here. So if they have any questions.
So I have a presentation. Would you like me to give
Yes,
the presentation?
yes.
Okay, very good.
Could we take a 2-minute bio break and come back to the presentation? Would that be okay with you? If that's possible?
That's fine.
Because I think I've had a lot of water and coffee. I know you have. That'll give them a chance to set up.
On what you would like to do relative to this asset management study. So with that, let me just jump right in. So some of this is going to sound very familiar, but the superintendent wanted to have us come back and be able to gain greater clarity as it relates to exactly what the board's will is relative to moving forward. And I think that's exactly appropriate. We want the same thing. So as you know, we did an initial asset management review where we looked at the district office relocation of the proposed civic center, the Area 3 development agreement, and land dedication, all of which I'm going to be going through these. This is just kind of what we're going to be talking about tonight and what phase 2 looks like. A redesign, redevelopment, and or relocate the maintenance operations and corporation yard and the potential for teacher/workforce housing at the Newark Junior High site. So we'll talk about that. We did add one additional, and that is an additional potential study to reflect the new housing impact. So as you know, for the first time really in Newark's history, you've had this incredible influx of about 3,600 new homes. So we'll get to that, but especially as it relates to, as you may have heard, and I'm sure Mr. Richards can speak to this, and apparently you're going to have a development study coming up relative to the state now is looking at giving you the flexibility to increase your fee structure for development fees from Tier 1 to Tier 2 or Tier 3, something that's happening in Fremont as an example. It's a very significant potential financial increase in terms of the fees that you would get. So with all of the new development, that's something that you're going to want to link, and we'll talk about that, but Mr. Richards is on top of this as well. So the district office location, what would phase 2 look like? One of the things that we heard clearly from the board was conceptually the board was okay with the idea of studying. There has been absolutely no decision made by the board relative to saying we're for sure going to be making this move, but that it would make sense to look at the merits of doing that. And one of the things that we have talked with the district about is coming up with a memorandum of understanding. So as I understand, a letter was sent or some sort of communication was sent from the board to the city saying conceptually, we're okay with this idea and looking at this because they have this bond measure coming up for a vote potentially in November, as I understand it. What you don't have is a memorandum of understanding where you can really start detailing, okay, what really needs to be looked at before you as a board or the district is really in a position to say, yeah, that's something that we want to do. And to Mrs. Park's point earlier, she's right. You would certainly not make a decision now not knowing, in fact, all of the things that are listed there. So facility needs, what would you need exclusively and what would be shared? So boardroom would be shared, conference room, training areas. You don't know that right now. And what areas would be exclusive? Because as we talked about before, you would own your own part of this building. It wouldn't necessarily be a separate building, a standalone, but you would have the opportunity to own, much like a condominium, you would own that building. So one, we have to look at what are your needs, both exclusive as well as shared. What's the community's perspective on that shared use? As part of this bond effort with the city, what typically happens is they're doing polling of some sort. They have a consultant that comes in and says, you know, as it relates to this, does it look like it can pass? What does the community think about it? One of the things that you would want to do is try to interject to the city that you'd like to understand. What does the community think about the district locating there? So this isn't just a unilateral decision on your part. It's in reaction to information that you'd be gaining from the city relative to what the community's perspective would be. And again, to Mrs. Park's point, which is a good one, the financial feasibility analysis. You know, what is it going to cost? She floated some numbers. I'm not sure they're necessarily correct. They could be. We don't know. But what we would be doing is looking at it's not necessarily just what the cost of construction, but what the financial terms of that deal are. So we need to be able to look at that and see what the financial impacts are on your operating expenses on a go-forward basis. And if that's something that just makes sense. And then obviously you have and would have a decision if in fact you made the move as to what would you do with this current facility as it sits here. Is it going to be used for another use? Is it going to be sold, developed? What does that look like? So that would all be part of a memorandum of understanding between you and the city that would say, here are the things that we'd like to look at. We would then be coming back to the board, working with staff, coming back to you and saying, here's the results of this study. And then at that point, you'd be in a better position to determine whether or not you wanted to move forward. So this is not an agreement to move forward. It's essentially an agreement to study what the various impacts would be to the district if in fact this were to happen. You simply don't have enough information now to make a definitive decision, and we heard that from the board last time we were here. On Area 3 land dedication, as we talked about, in that development agreement, there is an obligation on the part of the developer to offer to the school district 6 acres of land, and then there's going to be an adjacent 3-acre joint use park that the city and the district would both use and maintain. There's a 7-year window on that. Essentially what it says is the developer in these development agreements says, okay, I'm going to do this, I'm going to give you this dedication, but if they don't take it, meaning they don't act on it, I get to buy it back from the city at $1.7 million. So as you know, we sold the Russian site at 10 acres at approximately $20 million. So 6 acres of land is worth a whole lot more than $1.7 million. So it's something that, again, to Mrs. Park's point earlier, you certainly would want to be able to look at existing demographic data, and I'm sure Mr. Parks Brian Richards can speak to future demographic studies, and I'll get to that as part of the overall study. But we would want to, if in fact you would write a formal written declaration that would say, yes, we want that site, because they're going to pull a permit, as I understand it, at the beginning of next year. That kind of kicks it off. That 7-year window starts. So you would write a formal written declaration of the district's intent to receive the land dedication, and the clock starts. You would then work with the city and the developer on locating exactly where that school and the park are going to be. As you know, there's a CDE process that you need to go through. We just did this with Rescue Unified. Now we're doing it with Napa Valley Unified. When you locate a school, there's certain things you have to study to make sure that the site is appropriate for a school. That's not been done. We would need to do that. The CDE would certainly, we ask them to come out and look at the site. Again, a memorandum of understanding with the city and the developer regarding timelines and benchmarks. Essentially what that development agreement says is if you're not acting to move forward to legitimately say, yeah, we're potentially putting a school there, then you'd pull back, and then they would have the opportunity to buy that back from the city. And again, something that was brought up earlier, and a demographic and enrollment study certainly would be part of that. What we would suggest is that that would all roll into something that, and we'll talk about this as we raise to the development going on in the city, that demographic and enrollment study would really need to be done for the implications of all the new housing. This is just one site. So again, we're not saying or suggesting that you're absolutely going to build a school. You don't have enough information. But what it does say is you have 7 years. You should tell them you want it, and then at some point, if you don't want it, you say simply, we're not going to build a school there. And part of this would you would need to be able to create a funding plan to build that school. So let's talk about new development impacts. As I talked about earlier, and this was actually in the mayor's State of the City address, he noted that there was a long period of time where no new housing was actually being built in the city of Newark. That's all changed. You currently have a pipeline of 3,600 new homes, so enrollment growth is a very real possibility. I think you have all read about the impacts on Patterson Ranch and Fremont and all that other stuff. There was some implications for Newark as well, but they've had an influx of new housing. Actually, I don't think as many as you, and it's a bigger city. So you have new housing. So what would be appropriate then is to map out all those new residential developments, anticipating the number and timing of the new homes. When are they going to come? Where are they going to be located? And how does that relate to both the either assessing existing demographic and enrollment data or getting a new demographic study and looking at the associated impacts on existing schools and the Area 3 school site. And then at that point, the board is in a position to start making decisions about what schools go first and what you need to build and when it needs to be built, and what does the public think about this? What is their will to support a bond measure into the future? So we're not suggesting Area 3 on its own is studied. We're suggesting that this be part of this overall study looking at these new housing units coming in. The Corporation Yard, you know, it's interesting to hear you talk about looking at some of your existing facilities, you know, things, deferred maintenance and property over time. The nature of land changes. So when this corporate yard was built, it was certainly an appropriate location to put a corporate yard. I know you put a new kitchen of some sort there in the not too distant past. But the reality is that's a residential site. So when you start thinking of asset management, what you start looking at is things like what is the highest and best use of that site? So if the highest and best use is residential and the current use is essentially industrial, what that argues for is there should be a study to say that is there an ability for you to look at the cost-benefit analysis of relocating that corporation yard. We did look initially at doing this, which is build some housing and leaving it there. That's certainly an option, but that's a tough site to develop, and the city has recommended that they'd like to see all housing there, and you relocate the maintenance and corporation yard somewhere else. This is not, again, a decision to do that. It's a study of what the cost-benefit analysis would be to do that. And then lastly, just some other options that you might want to consider. We talked about this in the past. This is not part of this current agreement, but it's something that could be a phase 3. And that is that once you receive this report and you have some information and enough data to start making decisions about how you'd like to proceed, again, what we heard clearly from the board was that you want to incorporate the community in that process. And there is a state mandated way of doing that, and it's to put together 7-Eleven District Advisory Committee. We did it in Union City. We just did it for Napa. We're doing it in San Juan. And just earlier today, I was in Sacramento meeting with the Twin Rivers Unified School District and going to be responding to an RFP to do that as well. Sometimes we bring in Ron Bennett and Brianna Garcia to facilitate it. We facilitated them ourselves as well. But essentially what you're doing is you're putting a group of no less than 7, no more than 11 people that demographically reflect your community to study what, as a result of this study that we're proposing to do, you would want them to look at and garner their input. All of the meetings are public meetings. So in addition to those 7 to 11 people giving you feedback, they have public meetings. And there's minutes, and it's Brown Act and the whole bit. Ultimately, they come back with a report, and they would say, here's what we think. Now you have your perspective, staff's perspective, and now you have the community's perspective. And at that point, it's purely a district advisory report. It's not binding. So you could make a determination at that time to do some things, nothing, or all of the things that they would suggest to do. And we've seen it happen all different kinds of ways. Relocation of that MOP incorporation, we talked about that. Just real briefly on the teacher workforce housing, you noted that we did an initial study that says you certainly have enough land to look at the potential for developing some housing on that site. What we would be discussing with the 7-Eleven District Advisory Committee is, again, not making a determination that you're going to do it, but to put out a RFP, a request for proposal, from developers where you would state clearly what your objectives are. And I think I shared with you earlier, in an earlier report, San Diego ended up getting not only apartments and teacher housing as a subset of those apartments, but got a STEM lab. And in this case, we would be talking about the new design and reconstruction. I heard discussion about scoreboard. This would be a redesign and reconstruction of the field, the football field, the track that's there now that's in poor condition. And really, all of your schools really need to look at the potential for redesign, reconstruction. They were built 50, 60 years ago, and that there was a way of building schools back then. They're just simply built differently now. You just don't need as much land as you did before. So there's a way of looking at that. And then lastly is just to work with the, and again, this is something we would work with the 7-Eleven District Advisory Committee, but once you have all this information and you have some ideas about what to do, and you've garnered some input from the 7-Eleven Committee as well as the community at large, you now have a district advisory report. You then would be in a position to say, okay, taking all that into consideration, should we now move forward with making a very strategic and prudent study by bringing in a financial analyst regarding the feasibility of obtaining community support for a bond to build and do what you need to do, whether it's Area 3 or other schools or improvements to existing schools. It's now based on data that you've garnered, again, from the study and the community at large. So you can see this is a sequential process, and looking at what your potential options are. We would come back with this report. At that point in time, you would make a decision as to whether or not you wanted to move forward with the 7-Eleven District Advisory Committee or not, with some or all of the data that we'd come back with. And that concludes my report, and I'm certainly open and available for questions.
Thank you, Mr. Tutra. Member Preciado.
I just want to see if you could go back to phase 1 slides. I know there's like 2 or 3. I just want to make sure
You phase 2 or phase 1?
Phase 1.
Oh, the initial one, okay. Here.
Okay, so it was just that. Okay, so then I guess my question is, and this is where we can ask with relation to the proposal piece, is the way I read the proposal is that the proposal is for phase 1, and all the things you mentioned right now in phase 2, that would be separate and further down the line.
It's actually, there's some confusion there. Actually, phase 1 we're done, which essentially we've looked at all these. Now what we're doing now is we're going to phase 2. We're going deeper into the study that would then be delivered to 7-Eleven Committee for determination about how to proceed.
Okay,
So
that clarifies a lot. Then we would have to just make sure that we noted in terms of the discussion that for the proposal for services, it says the above noted phase 1 scope of service.
Yes, that is a difference between that proposal and the PowerPoint.
Okay,
Simply
and
because
that
we've really
completely-
done phase 1, so when they wrote that proposal, they looked at this, we've already done phase 1. That was the initial contract that we had with the district. This is phase 2.
Okay, so then that answers.
Phase 3 would
a
be
big
the
part.
7-Eleven District Advisory Committee.
Okay, so then.
Sorry for the confusion.
No, because that changes my analysis in terms of some of the questions that were in terms of the what I didn't see in the proposal were measurable outcomes for all of them. For some of them, there was like the MOU or letter, but the PowerPoint, then I felt that's where the measurable outcomes were, but there was a disconnect because I saw it as phase 1 versus phase 2.
And we're happy to work with Mr. Richards and clarify those things so that we can make that scope of service more clear. And again, I apologize for the
No
confusion.
worries. It's just that's it.
Anyone else?
Um,
Member Crocker?
Yeah, I think I'm confused now, royally, because we have essentially contracted you and you have done the work of phase 2, what was listed as phase 1 in the proposal, is that correct? Okay.
That's right.
So the letter's been taken care of. I went through and sort of set out the things that you had said. You did a letter to the city?
We didn't, as I understand it.
Okay, Area 3 sent notice to the city. These are things that were listed in phase 1, residential development impact, the demographic demography. The information about students and what would be coming. Has that been done?
We have not done that study. So the staff would be doing a demographic study. What we're effectively proposing to do is to take Area 3 as well as the influx of all the new development, to map that out, to figure out based on the demographic, how many students would be generated, what would be the potential impact vis-a-vis Tier 1 versus Tier 2 versus Tier 3 fees, which is a study that Mr. Richards, I think, is going to be bringing to the board soon, and be able to come back to you and say, here's how many students are going to be generated, we're anticipating, what schools would be impacted, and as a function of that would, as we understand it, drive your decisions about where your future bond dollars would go relative to the construction of a new school or the rehabilitation or renovation of existing schools.
If we go back to the proposal for services, however, the thing that's on the agenda right now, you had listed under phase 1 the courtyard cost benefit. So that was listed under a phase 1 thing, but you said you've already done phase 1.
No. So phase 1 was looking at what the potential was. So let me just go back, if I can, just so that we bring some clarity here. So phase 1, what we effectively did is we looked at the courtyard. I'm going to get there real soon. And we looked at what the potential was. We did not, when I last came to the board, what they said to me is they wanted a financial feasibility analysis on all of these. This is essentially, the cost benefit analysis is a financial feasibility. We've not done that. So essentially what that says is, if you sold this site, you would generate a certain amount of money. If you relocated, you would have to buy in or lease land, and you would have to reconstruct those facilities, which some of them really need to be reconstructed. That's the cost benefit financial feasibility analysis. So all of this is again, what we heard from the board is that you wanted to have more data on the financial side to see what the feasibility of these various options are, both individually as well as with respect to all of them taken together. So that's what we've come back to.
Member Thomas?
This question is actually for Mr. Richards. What exactly was in the demographic study? I thought some of the things that you're proposing, Dutra's proposing, is similar to what we will be getting in the demographic study that we've already contracted with, which is a timeline of the development and where those students will go. Was any part of that demographic study going to address that?
It is going to address that. They did get updated information with regard to the various construction projects from us, and then we also referred them to the city to get updates from Mr. Grindell and his office as they are preparing it. Just to clarify something that was stated earlier, we have not actually received the study yet. What we received was the attendance matrices, which are part of the study. However, that was where we caught the error with the special ed. We did get revised matrices. I now have those, but the actual study itself is not yet done. They needed me to approve the matrices first, which I've done. They've also identified their generation rates projections for the construction. They're utilizing a neighboring district of ours for that data, but I do not have the final report yet, but it should be hopefully very soon. I just emailed them actually during the meeting tonight to get a status update.
It's kind of like we're needing some understanding of that, the scope of that, and and how things are going to roll out before we can start spending a lot of effort to make some big decisions around whether to build a new school or, we don't even know, and I know this isn't part of the demographic study, but we don't know how much room we have in the current schools to take in the additional students that the new developments will generate. Isn't that
That
true?
assessment is part of what's called the school facility needs assessment, which is a portion of the two studies that we have the current RFP out on the streets where actually we've received all the responses to the RFP. I'm actually reviewing the reference checks on the top two consultants. We'll be bringing that to the next board meeting, which will be an update to our current level 1 developer fee study and also an evaluation of whether or not we are able to look to assessing level 2 and or level 3 developer fees. And as part of that is a school facility needs assessment that identifies the total number of spaces, the projected number of students that could be housed under our current student formulas at each of the sites. It will be an element of that report.
So the demographic study will tell us the number of students to expect, where our current students are, and where the new students will be coming from, and then the study you're talking about is going to analyze our facility's ability to house them. Is that true?
That is correct.
It just seems like it's backwards, that we're starting to spend money to do some, except for maybe the movement, our talk about the central office. It seems the other projects are kind of predicated on having some of that study data first, rather than moving ahead too quickly on some of the other areas.
And if I could just quickly interject, this is exactly this is a great conversation, and this is exactly what the superintendent wanted to have happen in a public forum, is to get some clarity from the board about what staff can do and what we might be able to add value. So we certainly don't want to interject ourselves into something that doesn't make sense. If I were looking at these, I would say, one, I think you do need to look at, well, you don't have to. It would seem to make sense to do a financial feasibility analysis of co-locating with the city. And that seems time sensitive, seems something that would be potentially outside the scope of staff's expertise. We can do that. As it relates to looking at all the potential development and the impacts, to the extent that that is already incorporated or will be incorporated in the demographic study, Mr. Richards can speak to that, we're happy to just leave that with staff. We do think it absolutely needs to be done and is very important, but we certainly don't need to do that. We're happy to take that out of the scope of our work. Corporation yard, that's really your decision. You can make a decision today. This is something we don't even want to look at. And if you did that, then we pull it out of the report and we just don't do it. We're telling you what we would do, what we would advise. But of course, again, this is what the superintendent wants, is your feedback, and he wants to know the will of the board. What am I missing? Area 3, that really, I do think you need to, one is sending a letter, but you need to come up with a plan. I do think it could be potentially incorporated into your overall demographic study. You could throw Area 3 into there. Teacher housing, that really is something that you would need to think about. And again, 711 committee would be a phase 3, and again, sorry for the confusion here, would be the next step as it relates to once you start getting all of this data combined with our data, you then would determine whether or not you wanted to start putting together 711 district advisory board to get some input from the community.
Okay, so we're going to go to Member Nguyen, and then I'll pitch in, and then Member Crocker, if you don't mind, just.
So just kind of, and you kind of stole my thunder a little bit, but I was going to say that, and it's not to dismiss the importance of the demographic study, but there are other projects that you've listed as part of your package of services that are not predicated upon the outcome of the demographic studies, as far as co-happening with the city, the corp yard, the land at the junior high school, staff housing, etc. That can happen independent of the outcome of the demographic study, because that simply impacts where students are going to be enrolled, where they go to school. And I think we have the current capacity, and with Area 3 potentially school in there, I think those can operate in different spheres.
Yeah, and just to speak to that, and I refer to Fremont simply because I live in Fremont, but I know that I think that if Fremont could redo it, their school board, I think that they would have done a study exactly like that, because now they're feeling the effects of what it means to have a lot of housing, a lot of traffic, and the community really not aware of the fact that the district did a study proactively about when this housing is going to come. They know it's coming, and people know it's coming. And I think this is really meant to be a communication from the district to the community that we're looking at it, we're looking at the impacts, we're proactively doing that, and we're planning ahead. That all is going to be very, very important when you ultimately look to pass a bond, of course, because they're going to want to look back and say that you've done some strategic work in that regard. So again, we're completely indifferent. We're open to being helpful and adding value where we can. We're not offended if parts of this scope get pulled out. We want to do what's best for the district.
Okay, I had something, Dominic, Mr. Dutra. It seems to me, in order for you to kind of help us as a district, as a consultant, in order to get the fullest out of the contract we have with you and also everything that's going on in the city, it seems to me like you would need that study, or whether it's the demographic study or whether it's the feasibility study. So if we approve your contract before we have that, so like Member Wynn was saying, there's other things that you can be helping us with. Now, with your experience in working with other districts, this going from tier 1 to possibly tier 3 to me is a very, very big item.
Huge. It's historic for the district.
Right. So it seems like if we don't get at the forefront of this and start really working hard, and I know Mr. Richards has been working on it, but maybe that would be something, if we do approve your contract, that you can help us with working with Mr. Richards, because we need to find a way to get this on a fast burner. So if there's so much money that's going to be lost if we don't get on this quickly, at least get to tier 2. And so maybe Mr. Richards can chime in a little bit and talk about the work he's done. But I'm wondering, do we delay approving this contract until we have all these studies? I want to get something from you on what you're going to be helping us with until we do get those studies, because once you get those studies, in my opinion, that's going to put you at a different level where you can really help us move forward on some of these things. So.
Yeah, and we are...
If I may.
I'm sorry, Superintendent, go ahead.
If I may, President Rodriguez, I think there's a couple of things that we have to sequence before we can make a decision on anything, really. I think that we do have to have the demographic study in hand and know what patterns emerge there. I also think another piece of information that would be helpful is some of the surveying that I'm beginning to do with what we're hearing from employees and community and parents. That's another piece of the puzzle. When we have those two things, we should begin to start really wrestling with the idea of where's the students going, what's the ebb and flow of enrollment. That's one piece. But I also think that there's some things we shouldn't delay on. I think that the issue with the city merger, if that is going to happen, I think that's something that's, and just talking with individual board members, and I feel that's something that we have to move on sooner than later. So I think there's some elements of what's in the contract that we could start with, and maybe have the understanding that if it gets approved, that other parts of it that are really specific to the demographic input, we would do that and define that at a date when we know those pieces. What I'd like to see when we get the demographic study is a board study session, look at all of the patterns and themes, see a full report, and then perhaps Dominic join us and say, okay, what do you have cafeteria style that can help us with X, Y, and Z? But I agree with Board Member Wynn that some stuff operates separately from that. So I think that, and I'm also concerned about the clock that starts ticking when they put officially out there this idea that we have a window now to take advantage of some property to build, and if we miss that window, we end up getting shortchanged, and we can't miss those opportunities. So originally, my intent of this this presentation and study session, and we probably need to do more of it, is the map that I have in my office that shows all the developments popping up around the city. What's the time clock on each of those? Those are things that we could know that'll also help us inform how we're going to plan, not only through demographic study, but also where are we going to hit first? And maybe we got to go deeper there first to get more information. So it is like building the Titanic. It's a moving target, but I think having someone to help is going to be beneficial. And I think that even Dominic would admit that certain things we can't do until we have the demographic study. So that's something I've been pushing on, and I want to see that, and I know Brian's been working on that.
And you know, we all agree that that in order to move forward, I mean, I do, it's to have a consultant that's going to help us kind of see our way through a lot of these things. But every time somebody takes a permit out and we're getting tier 1 where we could be getting tier 2, you know, that frustrates people because that's money that's being left. And if there's a way that we can get there quickly, and again, I know Mr. Richards is working on something, but that to me seems to be, you know, something that we got to get on, because it's money that's just going out the window.
Let me make a suggestion. The contract is it's set up to be a 4-month contract. I mean, realistically, with what we do at district, I was just talking to Twin Rivers about this today, was, you know, we would come on, I'm very happy to come aboard, work with staff 1 month. If staff at that point feels after a month we're done with our work, I'm happy to just let it go at that and forget the next 3 months. If there's value that we're adding and we want to add another month, we add another month. We want to provide value. Now, I will say this, I think again, the time-sensitive issue is the financial feasibility on, forget about just the absolute cost of building a facility. That's not what we're talking about in this co-location. We're looking at the potential financial terms. As an example, let's say the city, on an extreme basis, said to you, you know what, we'll build the whole facility, you just support us on our bond, and you could pay us out of fees into the future. You don't have to pay us for 30 years. It's $1 a year. You'd say, my goodness gracious, we're going to get a new district facility, because you're going to have to build a new district facility at some point. Get it? Boy, those financial terms are fantastic. Well, somewhere between that fantastic and no way we'll never do that is the analysis that we think needs to happen now. That's one. Number two, I could not agree with you more about the whole tier 1, tier 2, tier 3 situation. And what that really is, listen, I've worked with developers as a council member, as a developer, on the whole bit. You need to come up with a strategy, because what are the developers doing now? And they're suing. They're suing because they don't want. So the district has to come up with a strategy that is communicating to this group of developers and says, you know, we really want to battle it out. You know, maybe we end up with tier 3, but maybe we can settle on something that's tier 2. Well, you need to understand, is it feasible? What are the financial implications for the district? As development comes, you may see a windfall. That is a very, I don't know, last time, well, you're tier 1 now, and I'm assuming you've been that way for a long, long time. You now have historic opportunity to go to tier 2. To miss that opportunity, it would be not great. So I think those two are really important. The others are subject to your discussion.
Well, I go to Member Crocker, but when you mentioned district office, and as far as the community is concerned, the district office can sit where it is, because if you have a new district office and you have schools that need something, it just doesn't work. You know, that's not a way to approach the community, especially if later on we might need to talk about a bond. Member Crocker, go ahead.
I think that we need to have some sort of structure in terms of what we're going to talk about, and some sort of a time frame based on when we get points of information. There's some confusion in terms of what you've given us in terms of what is phase 1, what is phase 2. I think that needs to be cleaned up so that it's really very clear what seems like a logical step 1, step 2, step 3, that kind of thing. Much of what we're going to be talking about is based, from my perspective, on the proposed merger with the city. I personally am very much in favor of that. I think that that's something the city needs to do for the health and the attractiveness of the city, and I would love for the school district to be involved in that. If we have a way of paying for that with what we have here, the equity we have here in what the property is for the district that pays for moving it someplace else, to me that seems like it's not a cost. It's a matter of transferring value from one place to another. But we need to have a plan. Needs to be very clear. There needs to be community input in terms of what it is, and then we need to start going step 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5, because as you said, there is a time factor. And I'm not comfortable with what you're proposing. It's not clear to me, and I'm not sure if it's my head is muddled, or if it's not clear.
Okay, I understand.
So I would like to see more clarity in terms of what it is you're planning to do. The other piece is in terms of being consultant, we have no idea what somebody else's time schedule is. So anytime we hire someone based on a time schedule and somebody else has an input or an effect on when we can get things done, that's a concern to me. I like paying for jobs done. So I don't know, this is my personal point of view. I'm not sure how other people feel about it, but that is a problem that I have with an ongoing consultant kind of thing on a monthly basis. Because if someone else, having been involved with the school district for the length of time and see what happens with the city, sometimes 3 or 4 months go by and nothing seems to be happening. And so I want to make sure that there's value for the work that's done.
Thank you. Member Priscilla.
Sure. Okay. So here's my thoughts. My recommendation kind of to the board in order for us to kind of move forward, address the timely issue, but also then bring back and think about the clarity in terms of the scope and how we're going to map everything out. So my thoughts are, if we, in terms of the scope of work, if we agree that we do a 1-month contract and then lay out the financial feasibility of the district office, the asset management piece of the corporation yard, and my personal perspective would be the Area 3 piece of you taking the lead in that process of making sure that kind of mapping out the timeline and making sure we go forward with what we need to. And then the teacher housing, just obviously I know that that's not going to be completed in 1 month, but having those pieces laid out as part of the scope of work, and then 1 month bringing back more with the actual phase 2, and like in terms of making it a lot more clear with the specifics, kind of like your PowerPoint with the measurable outcomes, then saying what's the plan of the rest of the work, or with that framework, what things we accomplish and what things we need to still map out. So that's kind of my recommendation, because I think we need to bring it back so that it's clear in terms of that scope for moving forward, but I also think we need to move forward on certain pieces. So that's kind of where I'm at.
And I just, we're very open. I think again, to the superintendent's credit, he wanted this to be a very transparent process. This is a very healthy conversation. This is the way you should have with all contracts with it, because it's in the public, they're hearing this. This is fantastic. This is your job. And what you're talking about is getting value for what you're paying a consultant for. First of all, let me make clear, we have zero desire to be on a multi-month contract that we're not providing value. Mm-hmm. So what we need is, when I say we, is clear direction of the will of the board relative to what you would like us to study. Mm-hmm. And let's say, to your point, board member, just the first month. And we're just happy to do that and reduce the contract from 4 months to 1 month, come back with what our findings are with staff, and then see if the board wants to proceed from there. So we're happy to do that. We're happy to be flexible. Whatever superintendent you think is the best way to proceed.
And I would just add that I think the clearer deliverables we get for each month, I think it helps both Dominic and me focus our work in a way that brings us back a report to the board that's real specific. And I think I heard your list, I agree, but I also think that, the co-location is a top priority. I think the initial time frame of the tier 1, tier 2, tier 3 conversation is a high priority. I also would say that just knowing that we have a opportunity or our foot in the door with these opportunities to get development fees or to get land dedication, those pieces are high priority and are not directly tied to demographic study, but I think those things potentially could be deliverables to consider for 1 month. And then we may come back and say, okay, the next month, this is what's next. It might be, I'd rather look at a series of 6 months with clear deliverables than 4 months and it's kind of not clear. And I think what I'm hearing from the board sounds like we need a roadmap. We need a roadmap and a plan of where are we going, how are we getting there, and including the community engagement piece. So that was the intent. It was just, we got to get it started. We have to get somewhere, some traction to have a presence in these conversations, because the longer we wait, then we're not at the table.
Thank you, Superintendent. Member Thomas?
I also think that we'll know a lot more in November because there's a state bond and also the sales tax to actually build the Civic Center for the city is going to be on the ballot. So I think we need to keep that in mind, that either one of those could impact how we move forward. And I agree with you, Superintendent, that we need that roadmap. And I think Member Wim, Member Preciado, and I think we all brought up some important points that I think you can maybe grab onto as you work with staff over the next month.
It's great, fantastic input. Thank you.
Okay, everybody's had input and we've discussed it for a while. Member Preciado, did you want to make a motion based on what you?
Yeah, so now I'm thinking in terms of, because my approach is more kind of providing the 4 different areas or 5 different areas that we could kind of think about, and then direct the superintendent and Mr. Dutra to map out the specific deliverables, because obviously you couldn't map out everything but providing that framework, you guys could kind of do an analysis of what's feasible within a month as a deliverable. But I don't know if that's the approach the board wants to take. So I can certainly move in that way, but I'm not sure if that's the approach, or if it's more of choose 1 or 2, and then that's the way you're moving forward with.
So we've discussed this for a while. So we're at a point where we need to take action, or the action could be to bring it back. But so we need a motion and a second. Member Crocker, did you got something to add?
I think that we need to let Superintendent Sanchez do his work, bring something back the next meeting that's clear in terms of what I think the deliverables is a good important thing. I do think, however, that the city has asked for our support for the bond or for the tax, and I think that we need to be very clear whether we're going to support that or not, because that will be a factor. So we need to, I'm not sure, I think Newark Days is usually traditionally the beginning of political things that happen. So I think at the next board we need to be prepared to decide whether we want to go ahead and support, as a group, support what the city's doing in terms of sales tax, and do what we need to do in terms of letter of support.
Member Wynn?
If I recall, we've already
That's my understanding, too.
We've already resoundingly supported that measure. Now it's just determining whether we're going to actually take the next step or not, and the work that Mr. Dutra is planning on doing is going to help us understand and figure out.
I think it needs something stronger than what we did. I think we said concept. I think maybe we need to look at it and see if it's strong enough.
And that's fine if you want to, if that's going to be your approach on this, which is fine.
What's Superintendent Sanchez's recommendation on this measure, this item?
Well, I think relative to the contract with Mr. Dutra, I'd recommend approving a 1-month contract to work directly with me, and I will bring back some specific deliverables even prior to the next board meeting to the board. I think what it feels like to me is we just need a clarification of what is in that contract. And what I would ask Mr. Dutra to help me identify is what are the first things we need to put in the sequence that are time sensitive. I would want to start with those things first. And then let us identify those, bring it back to the board as far as what the deliverables are. But I would like to start getting to work with him, even if it's just for a month, at least right now. There probably will be other work, but for right now, I want to make sure that if there's timelines coming up right now, that I'm able to work with him to get that clarified. Clarification and the sequence and the phases, that's easy. I think that what I'd like to propose, however you move forward, is let's get a month approved. let me work with Mr. Dutra very closely to sequence what's the most priority and make a stronger recommendation of what that is to you, and then have you approve it, like direction-wise next board meeting, but at least I can get started.
Okay. Thank you. Before we go to Member Preciado, we wrote a letter, as we were asked by Mr. Grandel, and to me, that was all that was needed at this time. It shows that we're willing to work with the city to talk about this joint venture. But I didn't think we really needed, but that's a difference of opinion that Member Crocker and I will have. I think we've already done that. So, Member Preciado, did you want to make a motion?
Yes, I think, so here's my motion. So I move to approve a one-month contract with Dutra, Cerro, Graydon within the framework for the scope of work as outlined in terms of financial feasibility of district office, Area 3, so the Area 3, the development area, the teacher housing, asset management, corporation yard piece, with direction to the superintendent to map out more concretely the specific deliverables.
Okay, great. Thank you.
I'll
Need a second?
I'll second that.
Member Nguyen. Now, Mr. Druta, you understand that you're supposed to do all this in a month, and if you go past the month, then it's free. After the month,
That's right.
okay.
Don't worry.
Frameworks.
I think this is
No, I
fantastic.
think it's a great
This is
motion.
exactly what it's what we want. We don't want to be doing things where there's lack of clarity or lack of will and clear consensus on the board. So what we will commit to come back with is work diligently. I'm going to bring my staff and work with Mr. Richards and the superintendent on exactly, and get some work done. We're not just going to be working a month and coming with scope.
Right.
We're going to get work done. We're going to get to work. I think you'll be pleased after a month. If you're not, you say goodbye.
Thank you.
So,
We really appreciate that.
You're very
Okay, we have
welcome.
a motion and a second. Please vote.
Is there anything you'd like to add to it?
Mr. Richards? No, we're good. Okay. Okay. Motion passes 5 ayes.
Thank you very much,
Thank you
Board.
for the conversation.
Thank you very much.
Appreciate it.
Thank you for your time.
Looking forward to seeing what comes of your continued relationship with us. Yeah, Mr. Nguyen, second. Yeah. You taking our minutes, Mrs. Salinas? Oh, you are. Thank you. Appreciate that. Okay, with that, we go to expulsion review for currently expelled students, end of spring semester 2016.
Move
We
to
have
approve.
Item A.
I move to approve.
Move to approve. Member Nguyen. Member Pirzada seconds. This is to accept staff recommendation.
Yep.
Okay. Thank you for the vote. Passes, item A passes unanimously 5 to none.
Move to approve item B.
Item B, continuation of expulsion order. I've already listed the 5 cases before. So, Member Nguyen moves. Please
I'll
vote.
second.
Member Crocker seconds. Now please vote. Excellent. Okay, item B passes 5-0. Thank you. Now we go to Board of Education Committee reports, announcements, requests, debrief, and discussion. Member Purcell, you want to start? Or how about Member Thomas from this side?
Well, I don't think it would hurt to bring at the next meeting a resolution in favor, because we sent a letter, but I think having a public resolution in favor of and supporting the city's sales tax initiative, I think would be in order. And Newark Days, we all need to be thinking about doing Newark Days. We have a cake celebration, and the board is on notice if you're in town to come help serve cake. Jan and I do the lion's worth of work by ordering the cakes and getting them cut up ahead of time, so it's an easy item for us to do. Given ROP, we've been on kind of a summer break, so nothing to report there. I would like, as I've asked in the past, that that an audit committee meeting be scheduled. Thank you.
Thank you. Member Wynn?
I shall pass.
Member Prisciello?
So I was going to ask in terms of the city liaison committee if we can check in with Mr. Becker to maybe set up a city liaison committee meeting, especially in light of the pieces that are happening for Area 3, and it's a formal way for us to be on the same page and communicate.
Member Crocker?
I'm not sure what's happening in terms of Newark Days. Traditionally, there's been a presence in the parade, so I'm not sure what are things working on that. Okay.
I'm going to comment on that for my.
Yeah,
Okay,
on this
very good.
report. We did meet with the Newark Days people.
Good. Other than that, I have nothing.
So the only thing I have, other than what Superintendent's going to mention as far as Newark Days, is the rally next Monday.
This Monday.
This coming Monday, on the 22nd. All of you going to be able to make it? You going to be able to make it, the rally, on the 22nd?
Oh, yes, and are you going to be able to make it to the event that we're all sponsoring on the 22nd? In
Yes,
the afternoon?
we're sponsoring an event also for the new administrators. Thank you, Member Thomas. So who's going to have a rough time making the rally?
I may. You said earliest to start at 7 o'clock or 7?
7:30.
7:30, and then the rally starts at
30, yeah.
8:30.
Or you can just come for a little bit, get something to eat if you want.
I'd have to drive back
on
from San Jose.
Monday.
Yeah, and you have the flyer in your email now.
But
And then-
8:30 is when it starts.
8:30 is the actual kickoff, but continental breakfast at 7:30. Take your drummers at 8. Program starts at 8.
I'm a firm maybe on that.
Right.
Good job.
Now, if it starts at 8:30, when is it the part where we would want to be there?
I would want to introduce the board at 8:30,
And then,
but whatever part you can make is fine.
okay.
Yeah, 8 o'clock.
I could do 7:30 to 8. But
Okay. That's fine. This is going to be our
You'll
rally
be recognized
point.
if you're there or not, so
Right.
your picture will be on the big screen.
Right.
Oh.
It'd be great to have your support, and I realize that, it's tough for, tougher for some of us than it is for others. But this is our opportunity to really, do a bang-up job of introducing our new superintendent and getting the start of school started with a bang. So, okay, so Superintendent, your comments.
Yes, I had a great meeting this morning. Was it this morning? Was it yesterday? I can't remember.
Yes.
With the Newark Days Committee. We're working very closely with them. One of the people on the committee is one of our employees, a teacher. So she's going to help me craft an email to all principals, just kind of giving them a framework of save the date. Here's the map. They've requested that we have our schools just go by school, not as a district. I think that's great. One of the things I've heard in the feedback, just initially in my data gathering, is schools need an identity, and school choice is of interest to people. So I think having our schools go to a parade in their school gear with their school pride is not a stretch it's easy to accommodate. So I think that we're going to support that, and we're talking with them about trying to come up with some ideas or incentives or what it would cost to even get some meal tickets to purchase for kids that do participate in the parade, and maybe there's a way to find some funding to sponsor them, or have a water tent at the end of the parade where board members can maybe hand out water to kids. So we're working closely with them. We'll be working hand in hand in promoting it. The reason I haven't sent anything out yet is I want to start the year first, but then that's going to be quick on the agenda. They already have flyers ready. So I'll be working closely with them and meeting with them once a week until we get to where everything's kind of solidified.
Right. So the first agenda, I'm sorry, Tom, in September, the first meeting in September, we'll have the Newark Days people here.
Yes.
And we can really get the ball rolling. But I agree, right now the rally is the most important.
But I think as you're planning for the individual schools to represent themselves in Newark Days, that there's a mitigation plan for the schools that don't historically don't have good participation.
Right.
And so it may look awkward if,
Right.
you know what I mean.
Right. Well, that's where I was coming with some kind of incentive.
Yeah.
In past, when I've done similar process with schools and a parade, we gave each of the kids a bracelet that identified them as participating, and then at the end, that bracelet got them a water, a hot dog, chips, and something to drink at the end. And we were able to find some sponsors to pay for that. So I'm trying to find some kind of way to incentivize. There will be prizes and awards that each of them will get. After the parade, we talked with the committee about not, instead of going school to school, delivering the trophies, that they would all come here. We'd invite all principals to the second meeting in September and do a formal recognition celebration with all the schools where they receive their trophies for participating in the parades. And it does two things. It also promotes Newark Days again, puts it on our website. So I'm worried about that as well. But
there is a piece of that, Mr. Sam, not to interrupt you. The Newark Days Committee is going to be visiting every school and encouraging everybody to get involved and doing what they can to increase participation.
Usually, just my experience with those type of endeavors, when I know when my boss says, "Hey, get me from your school to come," etc., is that the effort needs to be done at almost like the teacher level, where you're pinpointing X amount of teachers, whether it's their science or PE or whatever teachers. Say, hey, okay, let's focus on this group, and then can I count on you to bring,
Right.
Yeah, that's why we have Miss Weeks involved with this, and she's the teacher over at Malani.
I'm not sure if
we
this
need to identify.
Birch Grove Elementary.
But we need
sure
to
Yeah.
Yeah.
I agree.
I'm not sure if this has happened in the past, but maybe all 5 of us can walk together and support and carry some waters in to show.
Yeah.
Traditionally, we do have,
Yeah,
we do have a
walk together.
float.
Okay.
We have a float that.
Yeah, we're still gonna have a float.
Yeah, that we
Oh.
walk behind.
Okay.
But I think you're talking about maybe if each school is spread out,
I just didn't know what in
Yeah,
terms
I
of
don't
our
know.
role in terms of supporting. That.
Yeah, we walk with the float, and then what Superintendent Sanchez is
Okay.
encouraging is that at the end, we stay there and
Great.
have waters and stuff.
Perfect.
Okay. But normally there'll be time to mingle where we could actually go to the different sites and, say hi and stuff like that, so.
We're also going to have a booth for HR at the parade. I'm going to ask them to give us a booth. But there might be some internal trophies that we might offer for spirit or for different things to incentivize our own kids. So,
Do we have a brochure that we can give out at that?
yes,
Okay.
it's in my office.
are they going to resurrect then the tent with all the organizations? Because usually what they have is on Sunday, they have the information fair. Is that what we're going to be? We're going to be there at the information fair on Sunday. Okay.
It'd be nice if we did something Saturday also.
Well, they used to have a tent, and we used to have the school district inside the tent, and they would
Saturday
have
afternoon.
city organizations and
Right.
things like that.
So I'll have more to report after next week. I'll be meeting with them, and you'll get a copy of the email that goes to principals, so you know how we're promoting it.
Okay.
Super.
So if nothing else, we adjourn. Okay, 9:51. Adjourn.